Talk, episode 6. We are back for more video game chatter. James, Patrick, and Hope, we're all here again.
Hey.
What's
We're
happening?
Reunited.
We had.
Because last week you had Ginny.
It's my birthday.
It is Patrick's
It's your birthday.
It's my birthday.
Happy birthday, Patrick.
Birthday.
Thank you.
How's your day been? Tell us about
I
your
worked.
birthday.
I went to work.
Oh,
That was my birthday.
glorious.
Everyone wished me happy birthday, though, so that was
Nice.
Actually,
the cake comes on Thursday.
oh, do you get cake days and stuff?
we do,
at work
yeah, we
too?
do the monthly cake day thing. It's
Yep.
quite nice.
Right.
It
How
sucks all the
personalised.
joy out of
Absolutely not personalized whatsoever. It comes with a financial report, which is the best part.
Yes. Got to get those numbers.
No, but for my birthday, I would really like to talk about video games with you guys.
That's exactly what we're going to do.
That sounds like a lie.
Look,
No, seriously, I've been fucking dying to talk about Fire Emblem so badly.
yeah, we've all been playing lots of video games. Patrick, I know that you are like positively busting at the seams. Do you want to should we just unleash the Patrick now?
Just go
Oh
now.
my god, alright.
Just do it. I
All
want
right.
to hear.
Pat, you've been playing Fire Emblem Three Houses?
Fire Emblem Three Houses, that's right.
Tell me about it. Why is it occupying
Fucking
your brain space?
rules. Holy shit. Okay, I'll give you the elevator pitch, the meets. It's fantasy soap opera meets Harry Potter meets Persona. It's so fucking good.
This
Holy
actually
shit.
sounds amazing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so it meets gardening. Actually, I forgot to mention that part. It's really,
Ooh.
it's like this. Okay, so Fire Emblem historically is like a sort of top-down tactics SRPG sort of thing. You're moving units around on a grid. You've got swords, axes, lances, magic, bullshit, all sorts of crap. You're raising units, you're leveling them up. And this time they've just gone all in. They're like, you're a mercenary who gets conscripted as a teacher, basically, and then you've got the class of kids, and you can choose one class of kids. So there's 3 classes, thus 3 houses.
It sounds like fan fiction. I love
Yeah,
it.
basically, no, it sounds like such a dumbass premise. Like, it is, like, when they first revealed it, everyone was like, oh, what is this bullshit?
It's like
And
the
then-
premise of a Jim Carrey movie from
Right.
like 1999.
or like School of Rock or some shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, okay, you got to swoop in here and save all the kids or whatever. But like the thing is, like, there's 2 things. One, the writing so far and the character work has been exceptionally good, and this is actually kind of like a new thing because like, so Awakening was, I don't know, 2012, 2013. Fire Emblem Awakening kind of revived the series. That was their last gamble. They blew it all on like waifus and fantasy eugenics because you like marry off characters and then through time shenanigans they come back in time and they're like ultra powerful units because of your marriages or whatever. So
Right.
that was like some weird stock breeding simulator with magic and shit like that. Then they followed that with Fates in, I don't know, 2014, 2015, something like that. And that was like 3 actual like whole games. Like I'm talking each route was like 30 to 40 hours. And there was 3 of them, like 2 of them were separate games and then 1 was DLC. So they sold you the same game a whole bunch of times. And people were okay on it, but the writing was widely considered to be really shit, honestly. And the character work was okay, but like not amazing.
Uh-huh.
But this one is just like the first, like there's houses and like treaties and just like also like people alliances and like all this. There's so much crap going on, and it's all world building, and not all of it is immediately relevant. But like there's this sort of mic drop moment that you can feel in the background that is going to hit at any moment. So because like in the marketing, they were like, oh, actually, the first couple trailers, they were like, okay, you're at time, you're just hanging out at school, you're teaching these kids, whatever, you're going to raise them into your preferred class of child soldiers, whatever. But
Oh god.
but then in the last trailer they dropped just before the release, or like a month before the release, they're like, and there's also a time skip, and then all this shit is going to go fucking off. So far, I'm not at the time skip yet in the game, but like, I'm just like, everything is just like, oh god, I bet this turns bad. Oh god, I bet this turns bad.
If you didn't know that there was a time skip, would you still be like apprehensive?
I think so, because like the way the story is written, like, so to give you the basic setup of the like academy, you're like working at a military academy basically, which is like run by the central church of this nation,
Mhm.
and the nation is split up into 3 like more or less at peace like kingdom. Like there's a kingdom, there's an empire, and there's an alliance, and like basically they're all like, okay, they're the kingdom offshoot from the empire, from a civil war from like 100 years back or whatever, and then the alliance offshoot from the kingdom, whatever, like civil
Right.
wars. So they're all sort of like at peace at the moment.
But they
But,
have
like,
some kind of history.
They've got history, and characters have history within like each of the organizations, and then like there's some fucking marsh bastard running around being like, I'm going to raise some war shit. And it's like actually interesting because there's a real sense of politics and like sort of actual political views, because past Fire Emblems have very much been in the vein of like, there's a dread evil and the fucking magic dragon took over this place, so now we're going to go fight the magic dragon. Like that's the sort of storytelling that,
so
like
we're
going to
politics.
Yeah, exactly. That's like exactly what Afghanistan was all about. But like this is something where people actually have like, there is some evil magic shit running around. There's a Death Knight running around who has a skull for a face and he's going to do some evil shit.
Oh,
but
of
like,
course.
right. But like there's also these three, entities that have different views on how they want to run the world and like how they should run their own provinces, and like it's just really interesting in that sort of sense. And that's like a side of writing that I didn't really expect from this setup. I haven't really explained the gameplay yet. Do you have any?
Well, I just keep thinking, like, I got stuck on the evil guy has a skull on his face, and, like, one day he looks in the mirror and he's like, oh, I must be the bad guy. Like, wow, I didn't know.
Are we the baddies?
Yeah, like, exactly that. Like, are we the baddies? Like, one day, I live for character design.
Yeah.
I admittedly know fuck all about Fire Emblem. Like, like the thing I might have heard about it before loosely is that XCOM-ish turn-based.
The reason
sort of
I've never
gameplay.
played a Fire Emblem game is because I don't think this one is, but Patrick can tell us, the permadeath mechanic scares the shit out of me.
No, it's still part of this, honestly.
Yeah,
and
it is.
Like, it's honestly Fire Emblem without the permit. Like they have a casual mode, right? So that you can just do it, and then characters will just come back after the battle's over. So that's like right.
Okay.
It's right there. They've got like 2 difficulty settings at the moment, and then they've also got this like layer on top of it, which is like permadeath or not permadeath.
Right.
The 2 difficulty settings, I chose normal because I was like, am I good at these anymore? I don't remember. It's too easy. It's just for someone with vague amounts of experience, it's a little too easy. Like I'm just
like,
trampling through it right now.
you talk about these characters being interesting and... I'm just going to stop while the dog barks. You talk about these characters being interesting and well written for a change, but what if they die and they die forever and you like them?
Well, you lose them. That's the deal.
No.
Yeah, and I don't. It's not like XCOM where you only get one save. Like you can just go back a save, whatever.
Right.
Like that's not.
It's not like Iron Man mode.
Right. But it does mean that you can't, like, for instance, throw units away to win a battle, I guess. Like, you can't just be like, okay, you're going to be the meat shield, and if you die, I don't care. Right. It's like, no, you're going to be the meat shield, but I need to balance this carefully where if you take too much damage, I need to pull you out and replace you or heal you from a distance or some bullshit. Like, it does change stuff around. Okay. And, yeah. Fire Emblem is basically a top-down SRPG where tactics sort of game, so like Final Fantasy Tactics, Advance Wars, XCOM-ish.
Sure.
XCOM is a bit more like hit percentage stuff where you're trying to fire from positions. Like like Fire Emblem is much more like you got to get up right next to them, or like even ranged units usually only have like 2 or 3 spaces, and 3 spaces is like really exceptional. Like that's a class ability or something like that.
Right. So is like a little bit more like sort of pulled out tactics rather than sort of the real up close.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sure. Okay.
And that's the like gameplay of
tactics.
This terrain stuff. There's movement values. Stuff is better against other stuff. Everyone is a bit, all sorts of stuff. But the thing that is mixed up in this new one. So traditionally, Fire Emblems have been like, okay, you're just going to play, like, it's just a constant series of these top-down SRPG battles. Mm-hmm. And there's no like overgame, because it's just like, oh, you play chapter 1, the chapter 2, chapter 3, and then maybe you'll be like, okay. Especially in Fates and Awakening, you might go off on side missions between the chapters, but it's still just basically you're constantly playing this game. Mm. So Three Houses has this whole like exploration mode basically, where because you're the teacher, you have to. It's sort of like a Persona game where you've got the calendar, right? So you're like going day by day.
Yeah.
And like it's more like week and then rest day, week and then rest day.
Right.
So for the week, you set the schedule to train your characters.
It sounds like a sports game.
Yeah, it's actually like closer to a management
mode.
Right. It's close to a management simulator in some ways. Right. Because like the traditional heart,
interest.
Yeah, the traditional heart of the Fire Emblem experience is like, okay, I'm going to level these characters, and then I'm going to level them into this type of character. Like this guy's going to be good with spears, and then I'm going to up his riding ability. He's going to be jump on a horse, and then he's going to become a paladin, and that's sort of almost set for each character.
Right.
Like you'll get a character, and they're like, oh, this is the knight guy. He's going to be a general one day, but that's it. Like that's all you can do. Instead, you get this class of like these really interesting characters who have their own quirks, have their own like whatever. And then they've got like, obviously they've got like stat growth, and like some will be better at dex and agility and, you know, magic or whatever.
Sure. But
then you can assign them to whatever the hell you want. Like if you want, you can make this like mage looking girl into a heavy tank. Like right now, I've got this like sort of princessy prom, like ditzy girl who's like really lazy and makes other people do her work. She's my heavy tank and she kicks ass. She's just got this axe and heavy armor, just wades into battle and just like takes 0 damage and just nails everything in one shot.
How does that work?
It's so cool.
Is it like a case of you equip?
Are they just blank slates
with
like
this stuff? Or?
They're not completely blank slates because they all do have like specialties, and then like so when you get to the beginning of a week, basically you've got a couple of different options. You've got like a couple of ability points for that week, and you use those ability points to like give personal instruction, which is just boost a stat, like boost a skill level. Right. Like a certain amount, and then there's like, you know, some random chance involved in like how much experience they get out of that. And then you could also set them to study something for the rest of the week, and that'll give them like a fairly large boost. And in that way, you can direct their growth. And characters will be like, oh, I want to become a this in the future, so I should study the sword, or I should study magic, or whatever.
And you're just like, nah.
Yeah, exactly. You're just like, listen, I know you want to play the fucking guitar, but fuck you. Piano, violin. Like, that's how this is going to go. Like, I can see here on the stat screen, you've got a hidden skill that'll unlock at level, like, D. If you get a D in violin, you're going to unlock this hidden skill, and it'll all click for you, and you'll understand everything, and you're going to get this, like, super powerful ability from later in the tree, really early, but you have to just work through this bullshit right now. So
I'm feeling so intrigued by this, and it's, like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then once you get to the rest day, right? So you've got a couple of things you can do on the rest day, and most of it is like this Persona. If you played, you like the exploration segments of Persona, I guess. You're walking around the school, you're talking to people, you're doing like little side quests here and there.
That's what I was going to ask. Is there like an overworld or like some kind of an open world that you wander through?
Yeah, so there's this, so it's like based out of this monastery, and the monastery is like, the Harry Potter comparison is sort of like, it's just this giant castle, basically.
Feels like Hogwarts.
Yeah, it's basically like Hogwarts. You like wander around, there's Pegasus Knights over there, there's like the greenhouse is here, here's the lake where you go fishing, here's the dining hall.
Oh yeah, that's Hogwarts.
Yeah.
Like straight up Hogwarts.
Yep, and then like and then all the characters are always, depending where they are in the story, they're always around the place doing something. Like they're chatting here, they're in the dining hall, they're looking for someone, they're hiding in their room.
And you're like, oi, stop chatting and go play violin.
I mean, so you can...
Back to practice!
So there's this whole, I guess you call it social linking, like relationship aspect of the game. This has always been central to Fire Emblem as well. Mm-hmm. Like ever since like even the classic Fire Emblems, you put characters next to other characters, and when they fight, they level up their like social link. Right. And then when you get to a certain level, they have a little skit and a cutscene where they talk to one another. And that's where the bulk of the character work is. And so...
When do those little interactions happen? Do they happen like during a battle? Or?
Right, so during a battle, if they're close, like basically if you attack a unit and another unit is within range, they'll give a bonus to that attack, and then they'll also level up the skill a little. Like level up the relationship a little. And it's the same like if you do healing, all that sort of stuff. But then there's other things during the week, for instance, or like during exploration, like you might go have dinner with some students and you raise their motivation so you can instruct them again. But then like because you're doing it with more than one student at a time or whatever, like you're having dinner with a couple of students or whatever, then they all get a relationship bonus. Or you go to choir practice, everyone gets a relationship bonus. Or there's lots and lots of opportunities, for instance, in cutscenes.
Like you're at dinner with them and you're like, I'm going to sneak you all some booze. And then they're all like, yay, teacher.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're the best teacher or whatever. Like, and so you're leveling up these relationships. These relationships give you the skits, and then they also give up, like a little power bonus when they're next to each other in battle and all this other stuff. So it all feeds into each other in this like really engrossing system that just like builds on itself. It's really cool. Like, and the reason I call it also a gardening simulator is in some ways because you can't 100%, like you can direct them, but you don't necessarily know how they're going to turn out. Like,
right. What do you mean?
So,
is there like some kind of...
because their stat growth is random, right? Like their stat growth is not completely random because it's dependent on themselves and then also the class that they are. So you can, kind of direct it a little bit. But it's also like, oh, my guy turned out to have really shit dex, so he's not fast, but he did turn out to like be really good at heavy armor and his like constitution is really high or whatever. So
there's like some dice rolling going on.
Yeah, there's a little bit of dice rolling there. And then like I've seen people who are like, oh, my character is this like fucking killer assault mage. I'm like, what the hell? I made her into a cavalier. She's like way better horse person or whatever. And it's just really fascinating to see how different people's playthroughs are, but they're still having like a really enjoyable time with these cast of characters. And also, the other thing is that because the cast is so good, it really makes me curious about the other two houses. Because I've chosen the golden... Like, there's 3 houses in this, which is like the Black Eagle, Blue Lions, and Golden Deer, and that's like more or less reflective of the nations. So like there's the Empire, there's the Kingdom, there's the Alliance. So I went with the Alliance. And like all these characters are really cool. And there's like a limited mechanic for... Well, not limited, but like you have to really work to poach students from other houses, basically. And there's some you can't do it because there's story reasons or whatever. But like I kind of was like, they don't give you a huge amount of time to choose which... Like they give you all the time, obviously, but they like it's fairly early story-wise when you choose your house.
So you don't have a lot of information yet.
Yeah, you're just like, oh, I've met these characters like twice and I can see their roster on my like notes or whatever. And then like this one likes this stuff. This one's this kind of character. So you don't know them. You just have like the surface information and then you choose based on that. But it's making me really curious about the rest of the houses because I mean like I do feel like this is my gang, this is my posse. I know these characters, and that's also a nice change because in Fire Emblem normally you have this like sprawling cast of characters because you just recruit as like the game goes, and you just end up with like a character list 20 deep and you don't know any of them. So this way I have like 9 characters. They all know each other. They all have S-links with each other. So they all like, I'm constantly getting like these little relationship skits and scenes and stuff like that. They're all appearing in the cutscenes together. It's like, it's really cool.
Are those sort of character scenes like really varied, or do you ever get any kind of repeat scenes? Or
they're all so each character with every other with a bunch of different characters, with like a selection of different characters, has like a ranking system, has like a set number of scenes.
Right.
So you'll go from like C rank, then B rank, then A rank. And then there might be like C plus or D minus or whatever in between depending on the characters.
Sure. It kind of sounds like it could be similar to Persona when you like level up their friendships and you get those different scenes.
Yeah. It's basically like, it's not this is kind of new because the plus, like the interstitial ones haven't been there before. And then there's some stuff that is blocked off because I think it'll only become available after a time skip or whatever. But like, it's just really, and I think the fun thing is just like all these characters feel like they interact with each other. Like in many games, your party doesn't interact within itself, and like they only interact with the main character is what happens a lot of the time. And in this one, everything feels like a big like dysfunctional family, like which is really cool. And then also you're still using these guys to go out and slaughter people, which is the best part.
So say you've got this character who doesn't want to play the violin, but you make them play the violin.
Yeah.
Does that change their cutscenes or anything like that? Like, are they unhappy in their life because you're making them do something they don't
Nah, that stuff is a bit abstracted out. It's just sort of like, okay, they'll have trouble learning to do this.
Dad.
Yeah. They'll have trouble, like, they won't be very efficient at it until they get over the hump, and then suddenly they're, like, uber efficient at it, and that's about the gist of it. So, like, that stuff is more the management side of it.
No, I was just curious, because that'd be really funny.
It would be pretty good.
And also, like, for me, even if I knew that there was a big payoff, if these characters were, like, hating me for it, like, maybe I wouldn't be able to stick to it so much. I'd be like, I want you to do this because I want you to be uber and strong, but you're so pissy with me right now.
I think... So, like, all the stuff that you do takes, obviously, you're constantly increasing in time, and then at the end of each month, there's, like, a story deadline, basically. So it is, like, an opportunity cost sort of thing, because if you're going to force them to do this thing that they're bad at, it does take away from the stuff that they could be good at. Sure. But, like, I kind of, I've only got a couple of days experience with this so far, but I think it's kind of a no-brainer to get those, like, really powerful skills early. So it's just a matter of being, like, using up that time at the beginning of the game.
I did a little bit of reading about the different houses today because people have been talking about it and I'm curious. And you said that you went with like the gold deers.
Yeah, golden deer.
And they're apparently like really friendly and happy and like they're a good teammate house and stuff like that. And so it's funny to me that you're like, I got a sense of team membership and stuff. Because, like, that's what I was reading, that they're exactly about that. Like, being buddies and being good team and everyone's friendly.
I think this... Yeah.
Are all the houses is it kind of like this rock, paper, scissors thing going on?
Not really. Like, they're not... Like I said, they're not really... because you can make them into whatever the hell you want. So it's not like there's a set path for them or whatever. Right. But the other thing is, like, it's just really a collection of characters and, like, stories and, like, ways that people view the world. So I'm not really privy to the other houses that much. That's maybe my only thing so far in the game, is that there hasn't been much intra-house like rivalry or like even like interaction up to this point in the game.
Interesting.
Like, you know, in Harry Potter or something, you'd be like, oh, the Slytherins hate the Gryffindors and the Gryffindors hate the Slytherins, and then Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw is fucking around on the side or whatever.
Part of that world.
Right. Like, they interact. So far, there's been like 2 mock battles where, like, there's a mock battle coming up, and there was a mock battle at the beginning of the game where they're just like, oh yeah, we beat you, or whatever. But, like, no one really seemed to care. And then there's slightly more pressing concerns because the church that we're all, like, a theoretical part of or whatever, this church that controls the school and is, like, the central, like, in the universe, there's, like, the state and the church, and the state has split up into these 3 things, but the church has also split into, like, the Western Church and the Eastern Church and the Central Church or whatever. Right. But, like, you're part of the Central Church, which is the governing authority, and, like, the Pope, who is, like, basically the head mistress of the school, she's, like, the first thing you see, like, the first cutscene is the fucking Lady Pope viciously killing this barbarian with a knife. Sick. And it is so over the top. Like, she is, like, got the bloody sword and, like, she, like, rests it against the cheek and she's like, mother, you've been avenged or whatever. And you're like, holy fuck, the Pope is not fucking around in this game. And then later she's talking about, like, oh yeah, these guys have to see that the sword, like, you know, if you blaspheme against heaven, the swords will strike you down. And, like, I don't know about this. I don't know about this. Like, you might be an evil pope. I don't think I've seen a good pope in a video game ever. Like, you know, like Assassin's Creed Pope turned out to be a Templar, and then you fist fight him, and then...
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's, like, one of the best game moments ever, just, like, punchies on with the Pope.
Yeah. Like, I don't remember a good Pope, but it's kind of cool because, like, the characters are written ambiguously enough that you might be like, at the very least, you're like, I believe this character believes what they're doing is right. Like, if they might be evil, but maybe they're not, because, like, they clearly care for them, and then maybe this person's a 1,000-year-old dragon, but maybe not. I don't know. What's up with your dad? He's, like, been 30 for, like, 50 years or something. And you're like, what's going on? So there's all sorts of mysteries. There's, like, elements of it where you're sort of, here's the other Harry Potter element where you're just sort of running around the school trying to solve a mystery and being like, this is weird. Isn't that weird? Like, what's behind this door? You know, like, all sorts of Scooby-Doo sort of shit.
But you're a teacher and not a student.
Well, so. I think it's kind of good in that sense, because it's, like, gives you this sense of authority where you're like, okay, there's a reason that you have this, but you're still on this level where you can still connect with all the students and sort of thing. Like, I guess you'd be a student teacher or something. I don't know. Whatever.
I don't think I've ever heard you this enamored with the game before, Patrick.
I mean, you're so chuffed.
Yeah, it's like, I think the main thing was I just wasn't expecting it to be this engrossing. Like, it was, like, I was expecting to buy it and see what it was, basically.
Well, I mean, I remember you were proper looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think so, just because it had been long enough since Fire Emblem, but the truth is, I bought Awakening, and I kind of, like, played through Awakening, and I was like, okay, that was a video game. Like, there's characters I like in Awakening, but I think the main thing is that there's this extra, like, raising, like, this extra level where you're raising all these characters, and then you're doing the exploration, and that gives me a lot of breathing room from the actual fighting. Because the actual fighting in Fire Emblem games is a lot less interesting to me than, say, XCOM.
Sure.
Like, XCOM is a very... it's like a game where you have a lot more tactical choices per turn, basically.
Yeah.
And this might be just because I'm playing on normal, but Fire Emblem... But even in, like, Fates and Awakening, Fire Emblem is kind of like, okay, you've got the scenario, and then you sort of find the way to solve the puzzle of the scenario.
Right.
Whereas XCOM is a lot more, I don't know, freeform in that sort of way. You could you can build your characters this way, and I guess this has more of the build your characters this way element to it, and that's really fascinating to me.
Yeah, right. Cool.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to keep going in the story. I'm only like...
Yeah, how far are you in?
I don't know. I didn't actually get an hour count last I checked. I'm like 7 6 or 7 chapters in. I've been doing a couple of side things here and there. I've just playing a fair amount, but I've had real life stuff to do as well. So, yeah.
Lame.
Yeah, I'm very excited to get to the time skip because like a lot of people are like, "Holy shit!" And I'm like, "God damn it, gotta get there." I want to
feel it.
Like, there's a whole like apparently everyone in the cast gets redesigned. Like, I want to know why there's a time skip.
I love it when that stuff happens in a game.
Yeah,
so much.
Right, and people are like, "Oh, there's like." Even before the time skip, people are like, "Oh, there's shit. There's like story choices coming up," and I'm like, "Story choices? Oh my god!" And like these games traditionally have had. So it's kind of like Fallout-y in that like all the like you'll make decisions through the game, and there's only like 3 or 4 big endings, but you'll tack on scenes at the end based on
Paragon
what you did and stuff like that. Yeah, like they'll tack on like extra, like, "Oh, this village did happen to this, and these characters went off and got married, or killed each other, or got happy, or whatever." And that's like all that stuff is dependent on the relationship stuff as well as choices through the game.
Happy, marry, kill.
Yeah, basically, that's the only 3 possible outcomes for characters in fantasy games.
That's the those are the 3 houses.
Yeah.
That happy and married aren't the same.
Oh my god, no! And I think it's a really good game. There is a couple of downsides. One, I think the graphics are really fairly poor. Honestly, this is maybe their 3rd time doing 3D and like their first time on a console because they've been doing it on the handhelds before. So it just doesn't look super great. Like, and that's in both the exploration mode and in the battles.
Only on Switch.
That's kind of sad.
Yeah, like it does have some nice stuff where if you zoom in, traditionally the game has always been like, "Oh, you just control these 8 units and that's all there is." But this game's sort of like, "Oh, those 8 units are an abstraction. Actually, they're all commanding like little battalions of people." And like those guys you equip the battalion basically, and they run around with you and help you do stuff. And that looks really cool because when the camera zooms in to like the one-on-one fights, there's always like a whole crowd of people just charging at each other, and it kind of looks like medieval or something like that, like a Total War game or something.
That's cool.
So it's kind of cool.
God
but
damn.
It's still at its heart like, "Oh, this character does his move and then this character does his move." So it's kind of that sort of thing. And I don't think the animation is super like. It's not like when they did pixel art, and I understand why they switched because this way because on the 3D models they can have every character do every move basically.
Yeah.
But their pixel art was gorgeous. Like if you ever look up Fire Emblem 7 or 8, their pixel animation gives for critical hits especially, it is so good. They have some of the most amazing pixel art, and they've gone to this sort of 3D style, which works fine to like
it's kind of unfortunate because like the Switch is the chance to sort of be like, we're next gen and we're new and all that kind of stuff.
Honestly, the texture work is very bad. There's actually a lot of frame drops and stuff in the exploration.
Really?
Although I haven't actually noticed it myself because I don't really care about that stuff. Like it kind of looks like a Persona game to me in that sense, but that's not necessarily like a Persona game somewhere between 4 and 5, which is not what you want to look like.
Yeah, fair enough. So a couple of technical hitches, but
yeah,
it doesn't really
technical
stand
hitches
in your
there.
way.
I really like the music. It's pretty good. I think like cinematic art style, like the actual art style itself is pretty okay. It has some weird stuff that is more preference based. It's a bit framey, but that's just art style. Yeah. So there's bits and pieces with it.
Neato.
Yeah.
But overall,
I'm just so excited. It's fun. Yeah.
Cool, sounds like it's got a lot of layers.
Yeah.
Little
That's
chunky
awesome.
boy.
I don't know if I'm going to be able to get through it by the time what's the Astral Chain comes out?
When is that?
That's August 30, so that's about a month.
A while. Yeah.
So I might be, but I'm hearing this is like a 70-hour for one route sort of game. So
really? Because I've been hearing from people that it's every house you choose, like it's worth playing through all the houses because they give you such different, facets of the story.
Yeah, I'm thinking a one route might be like something like, I don't know, 40 to 50 maybe. Because obviously reviewers are playing it in a different way, so that's going to time it differently. But yeah.
Wild.
Yeah. It's a great game.
Stuff. Yeah, cool.
I'm excited about it, and I really hope it doesn't like fall apart in the second half or some bullshit.
Oh no, you do a time skip and you're like, I hate this.
Yeah. And fast forward to next week.
All the characters are like bald and.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh no, some characters will be really cool bald. Honestly.
What's happened?
All right.
Don't know why that was the thing I could think of.
That's it for me for Fire Emblem, and that's basically I did a little bit of Kerbal, I did a little bit of Persona Q2. I was trying to wrap those, but I didn't manage. and I'm not going to manage. Fire Emblem is just going to take all my time.
Fire
This
Emblem
is your
owns
life
now.
now.
Yeah.
Well, what are you going to do? Hope.
My life is currently Wolfenstein Youngblood.
Yeah, you've been killing Nazis.
Yeah, I like killing Nazis.
Same.
When I played the other two, it was so cathartic to just be like, yeah, fuck Nazis.
I'd like to put on the record that I also like to kill Nazis. Thank you. I want to be left out.
But this one, I feel like it doesn't feel as fuck Nazis as the other ones did. And it's just because the story is nowhere near as good.
Yeah. So this is like a $30 sort of interstitial game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's instead of a single player, it's cooperative, which I thought was a really cool way to do it because I like playing cooperative first-person shooters. And instead of BJ Blazkowicz, you play as his daughters, which I also thought was pretty cool because they're pretty cool.
They are goofy as fuck.
They're dorky little dogs.
They are super goofy.
And I love that. So one of the things, it's such a weird thing to love, right? But I really enjoy that some of the noises and sounds and things they say are like really unattractive. Like every time it happens, I'm like, yeah, like these are just some teenage fucking dogs.
What the fuck?
Yeah, and like one of them, like when she laughs, she snorts a lot of the time, and I'm like, yes, like fantastic. Like they feel fake in the sense that they have a lot of like 80s cliches in their language and stuff like that. But they feel real enough in some of the ways that count.
Definitely heard them say bodacious a couple of times.
Bill and Ted's excellent Nazi killing adventure.
Yeah. And they're so supportive of each other. Like, they'll be doing things and you'll be like, you've got this, Jess. And she'll be like, yeah, thanks, Soph. Like, they love the shit out of each other.
There's actually a mechanic for that, which is like...
you like give up the horns or whatever?
Yeah, the pet mechanic. So you can either like throw up the horns and they'll give you
My girl does
armor.
the robot.
Yeah, or like you can give them a thumbs up and that'll like raise health.
But it's so funny when she does it because I'm like, I'm slamming it down because I need to boost our health and armor because we're in trouble.
Yeah.
And so like, and then suddenly her gun gets put away and she's like running around like doing the robot. And I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, yeah, you got this, Jess. I'm like, okay.
It sounds almost like if you ever played TF2 or one of those games where you have a taunt mechanic and then you're just taunting while you're running around the enemies.
It's a little bit like that. But it's literally just like the reason you do it is to
have this mechanical reason. That's kind of
whatever.
Cool.
Yeah, you can set it to different things. So I reviewed this game for Power Up, and now I'm working on the wiki for IGN, so I am very deep into this now.
Right.
And I don't love it.
Right.
Like, it's okay. It's fine.
Yeah.
Like, I really like the other Wolfenstein games, so I was pretty disappointed that I didn't love this one.
Mm-hmm. So, like, Wolf 2 especially was where I started being like, I don't know if the level design and the, like, actual mechanics of this shooting is very good. Like, I love the cutscenes, I love the story, the writing, like, the world they create, that stuff is amazing. But at that point, I was just like, I don't like this shotgun very much. Like, the level design especially is just not very good.
I quite liked Wolfenstein's guns, like, too. I feel like the weapons in this game are much the same.
Pretty much.
You can level them up differently, though, so you can kind of turn them into whatever you want them to be to an extent. Like, because you can equip different scopes or different, different...
bullet magazines, whatever.
Different magazines and all that kind of stuff.
Different, they're like minor upgrades that you can get.
And you can change your guns quite a bit through this. Like, you can... Like, I had one... I've played through it kind of twice now, and in one game, the sort of shotgun equivalent wasn't really a shotgun equivalent for me. And then in the next playthrough, I really optimized it to be more about like damage rather than accuracy and that kind of stuff. And now it really hits like a shotgun.
Right.
So you can kind of make those choices. There's also different guns will have a different ammo type, and sometimes enemies will need to be shot with one or the other for it to be particularly effective. So there are just two different ammo types, and the enemies will have like a little marker on them to let you know which one you need to use.
I found that intensely frustrating.
I hate it so much.
Yeah.
It's just like red bullet for red enemy, blue bullet for blue enemy.
Correct.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. Like
that has always sucked ass.
I see what they're going for. Like I see what they're going for in terms of like trying to.
It does make you use a different gun every now and then.
Yeah, it does, and in a way that's good. But also, I'm blasting this motherfucker from point blank range with a fucking shotgun. Why isn't it doing anything to him?
The other mechanic that is both good and bad in it is the more you use any weapon, you gain mastery in it. and the more kills you get with it, sorry.
Yeah.
And this mastery can build up to be powerful very quickly. So like you need to get a lot of kills for it to happen, and then you've got tiers of it. But the amount of power that this gives this weapon makes any other weapon shit in comparison.
Okay, I see. So it just has like this is the best choice option, and then everything else becomes like completely
And that
pointless.
obviously, yeah, it becomes that way due to your playstyle, because whatever you've decided to use the most just happens to be that weapon kind of thing.
That sounds like a hard thing. That sounds like a really hard thing to balance.
And it means that, you know, if you were smart about it, maybe you would change out your weapons constantly, but also having a single OP gun is really nice too.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a choice in that, but it just means that every single other weapon I've got may as well be throwing like toast at the enemies.
I didn't mind some of those heavier weapons that you can get later on.
The problem with the heavier weapons, like you have to unlock the ability to even use them or store them, which I think is stupid.
Yeah.
Like, I think
is there like a skill tree?
Correct. So there's RPG elements. One thing I do like is there are enough choices in the span of the game that you will not unlock everything, so you do have to tailor your character a bit, and I like that in RPG. I don't like just having everything unlocked. I like kind of making choices that change the way I play. But I think having heavy weapons lock behind something that you choose. Heavy weapons aren't that common in the first place. Like, that should be what restricts you from using them, how often you find them, not whether or not you've put points into it. But the other thing I don't like about it is because for example, in this playthrough, it's my shotgun that's super overpowered. Because of the mastery that I've got in that, the big weapons aren't as good as my shotgun now.
That's wild.
Like, they're just not.
So it's more like weapons should have their utility cases, I suppose, rather than just being like a straight power upgrade.
And that's kind of, I think that's kind of what they try to do with this, like,
color coding system.
Armor pierce. Well, yeah, it's kind of like armor piercing, or like it takes down certain types of shielding. There's like light shielding and heavy shielding.
It never explains it. Like,
no, it doesn't.
It's just like, shoot these ones with these bullets.
Yeah, they have because each enemy has like this. It actually, to me, so I've been playing this as well. I'm doing the review for Player 2, and it feels like an arcade shooter to me. It feels like there's all of the enemies have health bars. There's like 5 different levels of each enemy, and they're all very clearly signposted. They all look kind of different, and they all have increasingly powerful weapons and abilities.
Right.
As you move towards sort of the crescendo of the game in
like
one
almost
of the 3 towers.
In a sort of like Division kind of way, or what's the other one?
In a kind of Destiny kind of way.
Yeah.
It actually, this game feels...
just without the loot. So, which is what I heard people calling it a looter
people
shooter.
Were calling it a loot shooter, and I was like, no.
Wrong with you people?
But what it does feel like is a shared world shooter.
It does,
because
yes, it absolutely
when you're
does.
So there are these main story missions that you can go for, but before you go to those, you'll be in these like sort of town areas, and I actually think the level design is quite good in this game.
That was one of the things I wanted to bring up, is I think the level design in this is fucking spectacular.
Like,
and
it's
I think
excellent.
It's on par with like the Deus Ex games, and
that's actually really interesting.
And on par with Dishonored.
From the get-go.
Didn't Arcane work on this partially?
Arcane did.
I think
Arcade
so,
Lyon.
yeah.
Yes. Arcade Lyon and Machine Games.
From the get-go, you have double jump because you've got the power armor from the previous games.
Yeah.
And that means that I hate the word verticality when you're talking about a game, but there's a lot of like, is there a balcony I can jump to? Is there a window open?
I think it's
so
a useful
I can get
word.
through this way. Like, there's a lot of that.
The first level is actually also really good at teaching you about that, because you don't expect it from the start.
Yeah.
But the first level is like you running through this...
you have to go up.
Yeah, running through
in
this
weird ways.
Like, giant Zeppelin that's in the sky. So you have to maneuver upwards.
I thought I was cheesing it and doing some weird explore, but that was actually the way I was meant to go.
And there's also there's lots of little nooks and crannies that you can explore that way as well, and they really exploit it. Like there's so many collectibles in this game.
Yep, and I'm doing the wiki.
I feel for you, but you know what? At least I'm usually not a fan of collectibles, especially as an excuse to explore.
To pad out a game.
I actually think the collectibles in this are kind of cool.
I don't even care what they are. I just like finding them.
The cassettes, the little cassettes with all the
Yeah.
unique sounds and the unique
And there's like covers
songs.
of things.
There's
and,
like
yeah.
Has it got the same like Nazi versions of classics sort of thing?
Yeah.
it does, and it's really interesting. I really
The Nazi
like
Beatles were really fun.
I really like the soundtrack to this game.
That's a terrible like sentence.
Oh, listen,
Weird, right?
this is Wolfenstein.
But yeah, I found that because the story is just so poor, and like there's only there's these weird like sort of shared world areas that you go to before you can get to the main levels, and there's only really I think like 4 main levels.
Oh, that's really short.
Yeah, but these other areas
it
are
seems
like
that way, but there's
they give you enough to do.
Yeah,
Okay.
But Wolfenstein games are never particularly long. Like I managed to get through it the first time in about 10 hours.
That sounds about
But-
right for Wolf.
Yeah.
The new Wolf.
But the thing is, because there are only these 4 sort of major levels, there's only really 4 sets of major cutscenes, which, like, it just feels like they didn't even bother with this story. Like, everything's really obvious. Like, and it's frustrating because I really like the 2 daughters. I think they're really funny, you know, cool characters, but you never really get to see them be that way.
yeah.
Like
I think
there's previous.
It's not like Wolfenstein 2 where you're
Yeah.
like made to shoot your dog and then like you kill Hitler in space. Like none of that shit. I want that in my Wolfenstein game.
Yeah, like there's a lot. Like when Wolf 1 and Wolf 2 came back, they developed Blazkowicz from this like he was basically Doom Marine, and then they turned him into an actual character who has like pathos and is interesting and just like which is an amazing achievement. And
Yep.
it kind of sounds like this game doesn't do his daughter's justice in that. Well,
No.
it is like
And-
an interstitial. Maybe they'll turn up in Wolf 3 or whatever. But
what I think it does in terms of story is it certainly doesn't tell the story it's trying to tell in this game very well, but I think it does have some very interesting implications for that universe
right.
and for where they can take Wolf 3. And I
So-
don't want to go into it any further than that because it's obviously a bit of a spoiler, but
Yeah.
That's true. Like have you finished it?
yes, I have.
So some of the stuff you find out in the ending is pretty like it doesn't really go into it very far, so it feels really offhand. But if you think about it, it could be very
If
interesting.
you're familiar with like the way that sort of the story in New Order and in New Colossus played out, the first 2 games, I'd never actually played the Old Blood, but maybe I should. But if you're familiar with those stories, it seems like it's going to have some really interesting.
That's cool.
Some really interesting stuff to explore in the 3rd game, and
So-
also there's something that they drop in like the first fucking 10 minutes of the game where you're just like,
Well,
what?
I think this is set in like the 60s or something. I can't remember, but it's
This is
Set
in the
1980s, like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
late
right,
70s,
like-
That's why they
80s.
talk like tubular.
like from from what I remember, America has been like basically the Nazis got kicked out of there, but they're still in Europe, and that's what's going
Yep.
on.
Yes.
Yeah, so like
all of this
I don't know,
takes
it's-
place in New Paris.
yeah, it's like one of those like this is set in a huge amount of time later, basically. So there's some setting stuff. So it sounds like the world building is really interesting. Just the story is kind of not
Yeah,
there.
and it doesn't help that they don't like you don't really get to meet the villain in a meaningful way until pretty much the end.
Okay.
No, you kind of hear about this. You kind of hear about the villain a little bit in stories beforehand, but I
Right.
don't think it never really clicks.
And it doesn't build it up for you at
No,
all.
it really doesn't, because like it's only once they kind of do the twist, which is amazingly obvious.
Yes, so obvious.
Which like they foreshadow from the very beginning.
So in that sense, like you have met the villain, but even then,
But
like
you don't
you
know.
barely see them.
Yeah,
Like,
but
so they don't
you
come
just-
in Act 1 and
it
shoot your
doesn't-
dog or whatever.
no, it doesn't have this attachment. So it's not like, okay. Oh, okay.
and like this is
I guess.
really
And then it doesn't really click until like it doesn't. You don't get the gravity of the people that you're dealing with until very late, like until
pretty
very,
much the
very
final
late.
boss battle,
Pretty
almost,
much,
like-
which also the final boss battle.
oh, it's the worst thing
is
I've ever played.
Wow.
Like
That's
it is literally oh my god.
I don't like first-person
so-
bosses as is, but that's not
So
a
my
great...
friend and I played through the entire game on one of the hardest difficulties. We
a
had
crazy
to drop
person.
it to easy, and we still only lucked it.
Yeah, it's
It's and so part of the
frustrating.
issue is even if you die, it doesn't respawn you with all your ammo, and there's not enough to collect, so it becomes this
What?
battle of attrition. I was fucking stabbing him. Like he's like a jetpack dude, and I was jumping at him and trying to
you
stab
also
him.
don't get your shared lives back.
Huh?
Yeah, so there's like you can't like exit out of it and come back really.
No,
like, there's no ability
you
to
can't
do that.
like go out and grind, try and like level up so that you'll be more effective against this boss.
Or get anything back. Like it's just useless. There's like
You're forced to.
you get this random ability like just before this, and you can use it a little bit, and it's this new superpower, and then it's not effective at all in the final boss battle.
No, except for like the first phase, of which there's like fucking 3 or 4.
Yeah,
different
you've
phases.
got it, and they make this huge deal about how it's like this godlike fucking power, and then you can't like it does nothing in the actual proper final boss.
Yeah, you don't get to play with it.
Kind of, man. This sounds like a game that I would be playing for the world building and story, if at all. And then, I mean, not the
like
story, but like the what. I mean, I really love
what this
the
story
way,
implies. Like, there's a lot like the actual story that it tells is not good, but there's a lot of like stuff in the future that could be good that comes from things.
If the gameplay itself is
there.
disappointing, that sounds really.
The shooting is fine.
The shooting's fine. I like exploring. Like those two things are pretty good.
Yeah.
But that final boss battle being, I swear it's probably I actually think it's the worst first person boss battle I've ever played.
Did you ever play Deus Ex Human Revolution?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't finish it.
Before they patched those bosses.
There was ways to cheese them, I think, which made them a little more bearable.
I remember running past one of those, yeah.
So I don't know. The boss in this is not
And
very
you
good.
can't cheese him.
No,
like,
absolutely not.
That sucks.
He's rough. And
there's this part like during the final boss battle. There's 2 phases to it, and one of them is you kind of get him down, and he goes into like this tower, and then you have to go close to the tower to get the next boss battle. The first time I did that on extra hard, the explosion of him coming out of the tower, which you have to trigger, was enough to kill me.
awesome,
Cool.
awesome. Love that shit.
I was like, I have to do this.
Yeah.
Like,
Just sounds frustrating.
It is frustrating, I think. But you know
I
what?
tried to do it with my AI component, and a lot of that battle is you have to flank because one of you has to shoot him in the back.
Yeah.
But she won't do that. She wants to be your best buddy and stand right next to you the whole time. So it's pretty much impossible. Like, they've got to patch it. It's literally unplayable.
Oof.
Yeah,
like,
it's definitely rough. It's definitely rough trying to take that on without a co-op partner.
I don't think it's doable. Like, I honestly, like, I'm sure it is.
It's
but
it's
for,
doable
like, the
'cause I did
regular
it,
person.
but it's not
Fun.
fucking. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't have a good time.
Did you do it by yourself?
I did.
Oh, buddy.
I didn't have a good time. I did it
Oh,
though.
I'm sorry.
But you know what? I think for like the price it is, it's not all that expensive. I
That's
will
true.
say I really am super impressed with the level design in this game.
The level design's really good.
I think it's the exploration alone is worth the price of admission.
Okay.
Because the shooting is fine, and you get to shoot lots of Nazis.
Sure.
Plus, you get to
This
spend
was
a
my
little
other
bit of time
complaint with the
Jess and
game,
Soph.
though. Compared to other Wolfenstein games, I kind of forgot that I was shooting Nazis.
You find a lot of robots and like dogs and
There
shit.
are
I
a
mean,
few
there were some
robots.
robots and stuff like that. I think it's because the story was so incredibly not there that I kind of didn't have it for, like, what I was fighting for so much. Like, in the other games, there's this real sense of, like, desperation, like, we've got to reclaim our world from these completely horrible animals kind of thing. But in this game, it was just like, yeah, I'm killing more dudes, and they've respawned in this area again, so I'm going to kill them again. Like, they didn't feel like I was...
They're just enemies. They don't, there's no character to them.
And it's
correct.
It's interesting because I think part of me feels like that could almost be explained by the fact that Jess and Soph Blaskowitz have been brought up in this world and all they've ever known is Nazis. But then also
But it doesn't
really,
feel as good.
All they're doing is looking for their dad, and who's like gone off.
And I
Occupied
really
Paris or
don't
whatever.
feel like that really made much sense.
Yeah, I don't know. That felt like the ending felt like
Cop
get
out.
ready for Wolf 3.
Yeah,
kind
okay.
of
He's just
thing.
there. Like, you just find him.
Yeah,
Like,
pretty much. Spoiler alert.
There's no There's no big mystery.
Oh.
There's
No!
that's cool. He's just like you walk into a room and he's just like, "Oh, hi kids, what's up?"
Like almost,
Kind of.
dude. You like, yeah, pretty much.
I'm so glad you feel the same way.
It's funny. It is funny in that way.
Okay.
But yeah, I think
That sucks.
at least you can definitely feel where Arcane has touched it. So yeah, I really like level design. Hope. What are your kind of final thoughts on it? What do you reckon?
I think.
Yay or nay?
Oh, like because it's cheap, yay. But if you're expecting another Wolfenstein game, you've gotta change what you're thinking of. Think of like the really boring parts in the Division.
Ooh,
Then you've
Wow.
got the game.
what a sell!
Holy fuck!
Like,
I'm just
But the
gonna
exploration's way better
report a
than-
murder.
Okay.
like I'm. It's such a lame thing, but any game that lets me double jump is kind of okay.
That's true. Double jumping is rad.
It is a good double
Like-
jump, and you
And
do
there's
make
like a
good
nice
use of it.
little Metroidvania element to it too, because there's like some doors you can only open once you've gotten certain guns and things like that. So there's reason to go back and look at things. So like the exploration and the level design, I really like.
They actually expect you to go back into it as well because there's dailies and weeklies. There's daily
Yeah.
and weekly missions.
Yeah,
and I don't
right.
understand
Hey,
how
don't
it's gonna
like
be
and
better
games
also
than
as
me.
there
service.
is one thing I wanted to bring up, and a lot of people have been getting really mad about the microtransactions in this game. And
I
like,
haven't noticed them
it's
at all.
fair enough if you don't like microtransactions. I'd rather they weren't in games at all. But you know what? In this, I didn't actually realize that there were any in there until
Correct.
I read that there was like some fucking
I
furor
had
online.
exactly-
They
So I
are-
was wondering if, because I had the review copy, they weren't enabled. You know how sometimes you can't access them
Yeah.
and stuff? And because people were having such a whinge about it, I was like, oh, maybe I didn't see them because I had the review copy. No, I just didn't see them because
They-
they're barely even there.
Yeah, they don't put them. They're never shoved in your face. They're never presented to you in a way. I think, except for maybe in a tutorial once, but it just refers to it as like special currency or something. And it's you're never led away from the game at any point to a screen that requests you buy something. It is pure like. It is the least invasive, I think, instance of microtransactions I've probably ever seen.
The fact that neither of us really even knew they were there
It's
says it all.
and
Like,
yeah, the fact that people are like abusing the lead level designer of the game on Twitter to the point where he's had to
what?
lock his account over this is
oh my
fucking
god, he doesn't
stupid.
have any say in that, you freaking dickies.
So there's that too. So I don't know. Maybe go and support them and buy the game in that sense. Whatever.
but buy the game. So honestly, like as much shit as I've talked about it, it's a game about killing Nazis. Buy the game.
It is cathartic. I'll give it that. It's definitely got its issues, but I think it's also
I
pretty
can use
cathartic.
that.
I really enjoy these two teenage girls being like, "Yeah, we just fucking kill Nazis. Yeah, you get it,
Holy
girl."
fuck! The first time that they kill a Nazi and they're
Oh,
like
it's
vomiting
actually
and
in, like, the
laughing at the
cutscene,
same time.
Because like, so it's not a spoiler, but like it's actually in one of the trailers. So like they're both kind of like they've never really killed anyone before, but they've trained their whole lives, and they know that like they don't care about this guy at all. Like they want him dead because he's a Nazi, so they fucking hate him. Like it's a no-name character, but he's a Nazi, so they fucking hate him. But they're both like a little bit apprehensive about actually killing him. And they go to and they kind of fuck it up, and then the other one shoots him in the head and it explodes all over, and she gets like brain in her mouth. So they're like laughing and vomiting because it's so disgusting, and they've just killed this guy, but also like fuck yeah, killing Nazis.
Oh man,
It's a really good scene.
it's
When
really
that
dumb.
happened, I was so hyped for the game. Like it really sets you up to be like, it's another Wolfenstein, and then
Yeah.
it's kind of not.
All right,
Yeah. Anyway,
that blows. So James,
I've been playing Dragon Quest Builders 2.
yeah,
Sounds like
I couldn't
you
figure
play
out a good
Wolfenstein.
seg. Honestly, I was going to be
No,
like,
that's
speaking
alright.
of, I don't want to do. Speaking of Nazis, that's not going to work. Speaking of war deniers, I don't know. Is that guy
Yeah.
still doing the music? That fucking Jesus.
Yeah, I know, right?
Let's skip right over
about
that.
this
Wait,
story.
Skip right over that.
Yeah,
Okay.
the less said about that dude, the better. Dragon Quest Builders 2 is a bit of alright. It's a lot like the first game, except it's got a lot of quality of life improvement. So basically, it's like
Minecraft
I've heard-
ideally, right?
Yeah, it's very like
Plus
block
village.
block world plus village set in the Dragon Quest 2 universe.
I don't think I've ever hated anything more than what you've just said.
Oh boy.
Well, that's all right.
It intrigues me a little, but it's one of those like, it's not high on my priority list.
Yeah, I kind of like I like Minecraft a lot. Liked it a lot. And the first game was one of the first games I ever reviewed. And so I just sort of felt intrigued to come back to this one because the first one did some things that I kind of liked.
It's also weird how, like, I don't know that I've got a really weird soft spot for some of the first games I reviewed. Like, not so much about whether or not I love them or anything like that, just that
you know what it
feeling
is?
of-
It's that feeling of like, I've looked at this with a critical eye before.
Yeah.
And now I want to
see how they've
see
done.
how it's changed and actually see how, because, when you start reviewing games, you start playing them differently and thinking about them differently.
You get like an investment.
Yeah. So I was really keen to sort of see how they improve this one because, like I said, the first one came really close to filling that Minecraft plus a story hole that I think had really been missing from that sort of a game. But it just had a few too many quality of life issues where, like, you could barely carry around all the things that you needed to craft all the things that you needed and all that sort of stuff. But anyway, this one has a lot of charm. A lot of the writing is really charming, which it kind of has to be because holy shit, the number of times it wrestles control away from your hands to say something is unfucking believable.
That sucks.
I've gotten really bored of that part real quick, and I'm probably like 4 hours into it at this point.
Oh,
It
okay.
hasn't stopped. So,
That's not good.
yeah, so hopefully that stops soon because that's kind of annoying. But outside of when it doesn't do that, thankfully, like I said, a lot of the dialogue is really great. A lot of the characters kind of speak in accents, so it's all written and translated in like accent speak, so it's really interesting in that way.
I like that manga that you're reading.
And then
oh god, that was weird.
That made me laugh so hard.
It's really
And then
there's been a pretty good trend of JRPGs having like weird English Welshy sort of localizations recently.
Honestly, that's my favorite way for them to do it.
Totally.
They're gonna.
It's
the right
so
way
much
to do
better than standard
localization.
American, which unfortunately Fire Emblem does.
Because like I really like that it's just something different than what you normally hear. But I also think
that's why I love Xenoblade.
does-
It's
so good. Are we gonna do this again? No, we're not. James, please keep telling us.
Yeah. Sorry.
no, it's all right. I don't even remember what I was saying. Anyway, it's cool in that, like, I enjoy a lot of the I like the menial task of just like collecting stuff and building stuff, and it's sort of started just doling out different recipes and different blueprints for me to work out. And
it's kind of like a town builder, right? Like you're sort of
little
going
bit,
to these different islands and then building them up, and they send back to your like main stronghold or whatever, something like that.
So that's kind of where so like I said, I'm only a few hours into it at this point, but I'm still on it's the second island technically. So the first one that you go to after the main island, which is one that I think you get to just build on at random and keep. But this one, it seems to be that you're coming back and you're trying to help revive this island that's been beset by some kind of sludge that has killed most of the good soil in the region. And so you're helping I'm helping just to put this farm back together, and I'm building up a bit of a town. I'm pulling some people together, and they're all like helping.
This sounds like work.
Till the fields. And well, that's the thing is, like, in the last game, all of this stuff was kind of left up to you. But in this, you're recruiting AI, you're recruiting like
there's micro goals and ways to make stuff easier.
Yeah,
you're
so
Mr. Manager now.
Yeah, and I don't mind. Like, I kind of really like these kind of managerial style games. And plus, like, it's got a really wonderful soundtrack. It's really bright and colorful and very very non-invasive in terms of like its look, and it's just very peaceful and kind
pastoral.
Yeah, it's kind of what I need at the moment,
Sure.
especially after smashing through Wolfenstein.
Right.
It's kind of a bit of a breath of fresh air.
Cool.
So yeah, and I'm only a few hours into that, so I can't speak to it probably too much more than that so far. But what I have played, I'm really enjoying, and I'm definitely going to stick with it and play a whole bunch more.
That's cool.
I've also been playing They Are Billions.
Yeah.
Which
I played that in early access maybe a year or two ago, and that was really good in the survival mode. And unfortunately, it was too good because the final wave literally destroyed my computer.
Yeah, really?
The final wave is massive. It's
Billions?
a lot at least. Maybe not billions, but at least a couple 100,000 or something like
I think
that.
you guys are going to need to explain what this game actually is
Okay,
at this point.
okay.
Because this is very confusing to me.
I've been playing this on Xbox, which, let me tell you, friends, is a fucking weird way to play an RTS game.
It's a zombie survival RTS where it's kind of like a combination of tower defense and base building and wiping out zombies.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to put it. It's basically like a turtling sim.
Which is the best way to play video RTS. So.
Yeah, I agree. So all you're doing is collecting resources and slowly
building up walls and fortifications and towers and units and stuff.
But as you do that, you need more space, and so you start spreading out a little bit more, and that obviously becomes harder to defend. And so it's very tactical in that way, and you occasionally get hordes of smaller hordes of zombies coming and attacking, and they'll either attack your walls or they'll only come from one direction, so you can kind of stack everybody into this sort of one area and
make a kill zone basically.
Yeah, pretty much, and hold them off. But then it gets to this final phase where you go through several stages of building. So there's you start out building with wood, and then you can start building with stone, and then you can start building with iron. And
the three little pigs are here.
Yeah, basically, that's how RTSs work,
Pretty much, yeah. It's just a bit of a crawl to get to a point as you build out. But then once you get to, it's set across a certain number of days. It's like a day period, depending on whatever difficulty you select. And then I think
night falls and the zombies come.
Yeah, pretty much.
Build up again. Night falls, and each of the waves is getting larger and larger. It's really I liked it a lot, but it also felt like I would play this the one time maybe, and then it wouldn't really change too much from there.
Yeah, it
sounds kind of hopeless.
It is. It's very bleak.
It is pretty bleak.
You're exploring this desolate. If you survive the final wave, you win basically, and you can sort of chip away at the amount of zombies that will come in the final wave. But ultimately, what you're trying to do is build up these kill zones in the most efficient way possible that you could deal with waves from all sorts of directions, or whatever variable conditions they throw at you at the next time.
Yeah, it's and it's tough to get a read on all of that stuff.
And what's the performance like on console? And were you playing the campaign stuff as well?
So the campaign is not on console.
What? Okay, great.
Yeah, it's only survival, which is fine, I guess. Because
survival is from what I've heard about this campaign, it's not very good. So it's very long and not good, which is not a great combination.
That's also what I've heard.
So how's the performance? Because like I said, I thought my computer was running this fine because it's a fairly graphically non-intensive sort of StarCraft-y, StarCraft 2-ish sort of graphics, maybe worse, but because it's literally trying to when we're talking about thousands of zombies, I'm not fucking kidding. They just fill the screen.
Properly talking about
it is the most amount. It is the most amount of units I've ever seen on a thing. And when it gets to that final wave, I was literally going 5 frames a second, maybe less.
Yeah, wow. So I was playing this on the Xbox One X, and
I assume
should have no problem.
I assume it's optimized for it, but
it performed totally fine. The only issues I had, there was some occasional slowdown, but it didn't feel like it was because of something in particular that was happening in the game. It felt like it could have just been some kind of misoptimization or something like that.
That has me really curious about how it would perform on a basic Xbox, because I reviewed Jurassic Park.
So did I.
Yeah, the park building game, right?
Yeah,
on the original X, and I've just still got the the first sort of iteration of that console, and it broke it.
Really?
Like, if my parks got to... Yeah, I reviewed it for Player 2, and I ended up saying to Matt, like, I can tell you what I think of this game so far, but beyond this point, I don't know, because...
Doesn't work.
It becomes unplayable.
Yeah,
like,
wow, that's
Good
wild.
job, sir.
Like, I'd get too many people and dinosaurs and shit in my park, and it would just be like frame rate city.
I'm trying to remember if I reviewed that on... I think I did review that on because I reviewed it for GameSpot, but I don't remember if the Xbox One X was out then. I might have reviewed it on an original Xbox too. I can't remember. Anyway, that's weird that I have reviews that I can't remember. That's how long I've been doing this now.
That becomes fairly normal after a while.
Yeah.
Just do stuff and it disappears.
I remember it because it was so abnormal. Like, you don't normally have a game
that busts your console.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it would just get to the point where...
What the fuck?
Yeah, I would be trying to move on to the next island. Like, I think I was, like, up to, like, every because you know how you have different islands in that game?
Yeah.
Every time one of my parks got to the point where I could move on to the next one, by that point, I'd be in, like, Chug City and, like, having trouble selecting new things. And I'd be like, yes, new park! Because then it would be clean again and it would work.
Frame rate! Yes! I can
I'm really amazed that, like, city builders and RTSs have found this weird lease on consoles this generation.
Yeah.
Like, City Skyline is on Switch for some goddamn reason. And all sorts of,
Apparently people love it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's a great game and it's one of the only city builders in the market if you're going to play city builders. But, like, just on consoles, something is, like, these PC franchises.
City Skylines is on Xbox.
Yeah.
And there's actually also, what did I buy on the PS4 earlier in the year? Surviving Mars, I think I bought as well.
I understand it. Like, the appetite for these games is wherever, and if you can make the control systems work, then you can make the control system work, and that's fine. So I don't have any inherent bias against it. It's just still surprising to me.
The thing with They Are Billions is
interface sucks.
Oh my god, it does not feel good with the controller.
Is it literally just like the point and clicker?
It is almost unplayable. It is borderline unplayable, which is why I'm really glad that I had a USB mouse and keyboard that I could use.
One of the compatible ones?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
See, that's also really hard because, like, that's sort of a caveat in your review as well. It's like, I enjoyed this game, but...
Yeah.
If you don't have this peripheral.
Yeah, right. Thankfully, I'm not reviewing that. I just bought it because it looked neat. But I'm glad I had that because if I didn't, I would have been fucking super pissed off. Because like the controller for that interface sucks. It does not feel good at all. And I absolutely would not have played the game again if I did not have a choice to use mouse and keyboard with it.
Yeah.
The thing that, like, this is totally off topic, but something that baffles me is the amount of games like that are on Switch that don't support touchscreen.
Totally.
Yeah, and I think that's because the Switch obviously you can't use the bloody you can't use the bloody touchscreen when it's docked. But
yeah, but then they could like have like a pointer system with the Joy-Con, like
the IR or something. I don't know.
Use the infrared, damn it!
Like,
I think people just want to put their stuff on the Switch, get it running, and then that's the end of the story. Because they know it'll sell because of the portability, and that's all they need.
Because of the Switch. Yeah. No, I do understand it. Like, I technically understand it.
Even Nintendo doesn't use their bloody touchscreen, so
right. If you're gonna make me pay for a touchscreen on my console, then like please let.
I think the only time I use it is like when putting my password in to buy shit from the eShop.
Yeah. There's so many like iPhone and stuff ports that still don't use it. Like,
right?
God. Anyway, sorry, Jake.
No, that's all right.
How's Outer Wilds going? Oh, okay. Sorry for.
So I got really, really, really far, and then my console crashed.
Oh, did you lose the save? Or just you were just like deflated you?
It deflated because what it is I'm pretty I was about a minute from like the end.
Oh.
And you have to get to that because it's a looping game, right?
Yeah.
You had to have done all these specific things in this one loop in the right sort of order, and timed it all right and everything like that. And I'd never managed to do it before. Like I went to like the ash place and I got the first thing and then I got in my ship and like I had to wait for all the sand to go down so I could get that in the first place. So that took ages. And then I got in my ship and I went into the thing and I didn't get eaten by any anglerfish, which scared the crap out
Oh
of me.
my god, the
And then-
dark
Not knowing anything about
bramble.
Outer Worlds, this sounds awesome.
The dark bramble is a scary place.
I don't like it. Like, I really don't like it. It's like this milky abyss with these twisted, dark, thorny plants. And then there are these lights in the distance. And some of them are good lights.
And you want to go to
and
them.
most of them are bad lights.
But you don't want to go to them.
I really want to play this game at some point.
It's a really fascinating game.
Fucking incredible.
Sounds like the epitome of exploration sort of stuff.
Oh, man.
Yeah, I'm never playing
experimentation.
it ever again.
Well, yeah, that sucks.
And, like, some of it's just a little bit too obscure.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like there aren't enough. Like, there's lots of new things to discover and all that kind of stuff, but I personally could have done with, like, a little bit more direction for things, like, because I don't know if I would have just guessed it all without the little instant search.
Doesn't hold your hand in the slightest.
No. And, like, so there's so many mysteries and so many questions that I have. And if I felt like I had the ability to solve them myself, I'd probably still be playing because I'd be interested in going and doing that. But I don't really feel like I have that because I haven't found the right thing or I haven't latched on to the right clue or whatever, which is really cool. But in the same time, it means that if I do want to, so like for an offhand example, there's like this water planet and it's got these currents and tornadoes and things like that. And it implies that you can get to the center of it if you work out however to do that, because normally you can't because the currents are too strong and they push you away. But there's very, very heavy implication that you can get to the center. I have been everywhere on that planet that I feel like I can go, and I do not know how to get to the center.
Yeah. There's just no hints for you, basically. There's no, like...
Yeah.
You can't see a way in. It's just a big wall. And you're just sort of like, fuck.
Yeah, and
fuck
I
this.
know that there definitely will be hints, because the game is very clever like that. It gives them to you.
I stumbled
But
on
that
the
doesn't
answer
mean
to
that I'm smart enough to notice what the
by
right
accident.
hint is.
Yeah, I think I stumbled upon that by accident.
Like, I'm
How to
really
do that.
stupid, and this game does not appreciate that in me.
It's kind of hard to pull all of those threads together. So like the ship has like a star map sort of thing on it that like kind of helps you a bit like a
It'll kind of tell you, like, it'll write down some of the key notes for you, so you can be like, oh, I learned about this on this planet. So it's not like you've got to remember it.
yeah, and it
But it
tells
won't
you
be
how
enough.
all of that stuff is connected as well. Like it will sort of show you visually how all of those sort of story threads are connected. But then like also trying to fucking remember that as you're going throughout the galaxy
That's
is
the other
like
thing.
hard, man. It's hard to know
I
what
wish
you want to
could
do
access
next.
that from wherever you were.
Same,
not on your ship.
same.
Like if you just had like I don't know why I'm
Little-
thinking like a Fallout sort of Pip-Boy
Why
type
not?
thing. but-
Yeah.
Is
That
it the
would be
sort of
great.
game where, like, physical paper and a pen is a help?
Could be, yeah.
No.
I mean, it could
I think
be.
there's too much.
Yeah, like, there's definitely stuff where you can't map the stuff in the right way without actual
could be if you,
organizational
like-
chart or something like that.
Yeah, if you were to sit down and like try to actually map something out, maybe it would be useful like that. Like if you say like, all right, I need to go here by this time, and then by this time I need to go here, and then by the time that this thing has done this, then I need to be there. Maybe that would make sense more in that way, like
But
just to
it's-
help you kind of
Okay.
draw
It's
a
a
critical
lot.
path. But yeah,
Like-
it is a
Okay.
lot.
It's a really
Scheduling
really-
software.
But it's also really wonderful in that way, I think.
It's a really
It's
fascinating
very
game.
deep.
It's definitely something I
It's-
want to touch at some point.
Play it, Patrick.
Yeah.
I don't know how it manages to be so sweet and so harrowing. Like, and I've got a real weird fear of space. Like, I love space. I really
Yeah, but it's the fucking void.
but it is the void, and I feel that in my soul.
Yeah.
And this game makes me feel that quite a lot. Which I
Fantastic.
don't always enjoy. Like, there's been multiple times where I've like messed up my jetpack, and I've just been out in the abyss. And
That's a horrible feeling.
Very Kerbal.
and like
Yeah.
and you can try to get back to things, and a bunch of times I've managed it, which almost makes it worse because you don't just give up and accept your fate. Like
You struggle and thrash.
instead, like, yeah, you actively try, and like sometimes I've saved it and I found something new and completely unique for it, and that's been kind of amazing. But it really like
It means you can't just
it
give
means
up.
that I do not go quietly into that good night. Like, and I hate that. And I really do.
no.
Like, there's also sometimes when it kills you randomly, it feels so heartless, which is very apt because it really does just feel like you're this space explorer, and you can kind of understand why they haven't gotten very far because, you're only doing it because you're not scared of death anymore. But like once I just happened to be in a spot that was too tight when there was too much sand in it, and so it just cracked my visor and I died instantly.
Nice.
Oof. Okay.
Brutal.
I once didn't realize the sun was right behind me. And so I was in the sun.
Autopilot will send you into the sun if you're not careful of your trajectory.
Yeah, I remember, like one time I'm just like having a sip of my tea while I'm letting my ship do its thing, and next time I'm like, oh, but this is how I die this time. All right, cool. It's like I don't dislike the game by any means. Like I think it's wondrous and a feat, but I really just wish, even if there was just a different mode where I could turn on hints, that would really have made it more accessible for me, because I will not play it again after that crash. Like that burnt my heart into a crisp.
Yeah, okay. That's understandable.
I will probably never touch this game again. But if I thought I could find out new things, even unrelated to the kind of infinite goal that I was going for there, which was kind of the main end, I guess. If I thought I had the ability to do that and it not take me fucking years of remembering shit, I'd be more inclined to do it. Like, I appreciate the complete dedication to exploration and discovery that it has. I just want a little bit less. Just a little.
Get it.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of a help.
The other game I had a quick look at just this week was the Life is Strange 2.
Yep.
I played the first episode because it was on Game Pass, and I hate it
so
much.
That's nice.
Yeah. I don't know. I fell off the Life is Strange bandwagon fairly early.
They're always kind of odd, right? Like I
love the music,
loved
but
them. The music in them's phenomenal, and I've played all of them except for this one.
Haven't
and I've
played
always
any
found.
of them.
Sorry, you haven't played any.
I haven't played any of them.
Like I wouldn't say that walking simulators are my favorite game to begin with, but I always just kind of.
They're more Telltale-ish.
Yeah, like they've always had enough there to keep me interested, and this one I was actively like, can it be the end of this episode now? I feel like I haven't done anything in an hour.
Wow.
Like the game's just sort of played out in front of me, and the choices were frustrating to me. Like I get that it's trying to show me that people are racist pieces of shit. So there's this part where I went into a shop, and like your American kids, but your dad's Mexican, so you look Mexican.
Yeah.
And some shit's gone down, so you've run away. So you're a Mexican teenage boy, and your little brother who's like 8 or something. And you go into this shop, and you have the option to try to steal things if you want and things like that. But I played it real cool. I was like, no, you know what? We're going to be better than what they think we are. We're going to not steal anything. We're going to buy a couple cheap things that we think we need and then try to save as much money as possible. But we'll buy these couple things. And then we're sitting out on the bench afterwards, and this guy comes up, and he's like, hey, did you steal this stuff? Let's go inside so we can make sure that you paid for all this stuff. And my kid, like, there's no option for me to be like, I didn't steal anything, happy to do that kind of thing. You're just like, oh, sorry, mister, like, I don't really want to talk to you, like, our dad's coming soon. Like, you don't have that choice. And the point behind it is that this guy's gonna,
get you whatever happens,
yeah. But the fact that I didn't even have that ability to even try that frustrated the crap out of me.
I think that's a huge problem with these more social simulator sort of games, like not simulator, but social really storytelling kind of games, where they have to provide options because they have to write in a certain way, but they can't possibly encompass all possible options, and then there's more verbs to it than shoot and kill, basically.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that means the complexity just goes through the fucking roof. So
it was such a frustrating experience because I understood what they were going for, and if they had have let me tried, like there were many examples like this, is just one of them. But if they had have let me try to do the thing where I was like, actually, I didn't steal anything, because it would have made you feel like, haha, I did the right thing before, and then you get fucked anyway, that would have been so much more powerful than not even having the option.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I got really frustrated with it. I won't finish it.
Fair.
There you go. Life is Strange 2.
I think that's it for games.
It's a lot of games. We've
been playing a lot.
We have.
Sorry,
video games are happening again. I hear that Madden is on the horizon.
Oh, fucking September.
Yeah, that means video games are happening.
Like August is here, and August actually has a whole bunch of games. I'll share my calendar with you guys later. But
Yeah, that'd be good. That'd be handy.
but September is literally something like 3 or 4 releases per week, maybe, and then there's 1 week where it's just like 5 releases, 6 releases.
Jesus.
And like November's pretty big.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Like kind of cool.
I'm excited.
I mean,
I have no time.
Oh my god.
Well, it's also good because I know a whole bunch of them. I'm just like, I'm not playing this. Bye. And, and it's good to have that freedom this year instead of having to like do Game of the Year lists or whatever.
You have to do that really. Like I had to make that choice because the last few years I've been like trying so hard to be on top of as much of what's going on as possible, and it's just there's so many games now. There's so many video games. Yeah. Like you can't stay on top.
I'm just happy whenever I catch the zeitgeist.
Pretty much.
I'm in the Fire Emblem zeitgeist right now, and it rules. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone's like, my character does
and
this.
And you're actually involved in it.
Yeah.
Nice.
I'm not. I used to, when you have review games, you have them early and you know stuff about them before everyone, so you become the like, for one glorious week, you're the dispenser of knowledge or whatever.
Yep.
But then, before long, someone who has like way more time than you has played the shit out of it, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna go back.
The amount of times, like, just because of people talking about a game on Twitter, even if the game didn't interest me before, but I want to be a part of the conversation, like, the pull to get the game is so strong. It's like, no, there's a reason you don't have it. It's because you won't even like it. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
Zeitgeist is so powerful.
That's why I've been looking at Fire Emblem.
Mm.
Yeah, me too.
Well, it's a very good choice if you want to get it. So they've got that like I don't know if you've got Nintendo Online for Tetris 99 or some bullshit, but they've got that like special offer where you pay
first once.
They've got that thing where you pay for a coupon, which is like I don't know something like a $30 discount over buying 2 games. So like you get a coupon for 2 games, and it's like $30 less than if you just bought 2 games. So and you get
that
Nintendo
means it costs
points.
as much as it does in store then.
That's a thing.
Let's do news, guys.
There's a bunch of news. A bunch of things have happened, as tends to happen in the world of video games. And the first thing I want to talk about is the Interactive Games and Entertainment Association has put out, in association with Bond University, their Digital Australia 2020 talk, which is basically just like a big old fact sheet on the state of games in Australia and how people play them. And there's a lot of really interesting stats in there. And I just wanted to highlight some of them because I think this kind of stuff is really fascinating, especially when you think about sort of how a lot of mainstream media still to this day portrays people who play games, and so this kind of puts
I personally didn't find any of these stats surprising, but I can imagine that someone who's not necessarily involved in gaming would.
Yeah, and these are things that people with sort of in and around the industry, or people who take an interest in sort of the wider games community, we've known these things for the better part of a decade at this point, but for some
stuff
reason
is much more powerful when it comes from a university-funded study, for instance.
That is true. That is true.
Like you can quote it in an article or some bullshit. Yeah,
and there's a bunch of different facts here on this summary report that I'm reading, but there's a few that I just wanted to highlight. So it's like 2/3 of Australians play video games. And most of those homes have a device for playing video games, which could be like a phone or a console or a PC or whatever.
I think that's an obscenely low number than what reality is, actually.
Yeah, you reckon?
Well, I mean, I don't think there are many households without a phone.
I mean, it does say most homes. It doesn't actually give you a number.
And I think it's just one of those things where video games is ill-defined.
Well, yeah, I think in sort of terms of this, it could be anything from, like a VR headset to like somebody playing a Match 3 game on their phone, or Sudoku or something like that on their phone.
Because I would say that if they are including like general, I don't like calling this, but like I guess time-wasty phone games, I think the numbers would be higher. Maybe.
This says that 70% of people use their mobile phones for playing games. I don't play games on my phone.
I do once in a while, but It's not my
Yeah, I do it very occasionally.
Choose
I used
battery.
to. I used to when I first got into the touchscreen smartphone world. I was like, holy shit, I can play lots of these little tappy tap games on my phone. And then I realized I got really bored of those, and I haven't played them.
I
for
guess
years.
like my previous like proper job was working at Samsung, helping people with their phones and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I really ever saw a phone without a game installed.
And then they all come preloaded with.
They'll
You
come
know,
with, like,
think about the
Candy
amount of
Crush or
people.
something on them.
Yeah, think about the amount of people who play Snake and stuff
Yeah.
back on the Nokia
Or, like,
days.
Oh
Like
man.
Words with
Snake.
Friends, like even simple stuff like that.
I think there's a lot of games that people don't even think about as games. You know?
Absolutely.
That's what I mean. Like I think that like that's where I have trouble with this survey, like knowing
Well, I mean,
that kind of thing.
yeah, the full report will have the methodology and stuff in there, so you know.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
is
You can
just the
definitely look into
summary.
it. This
that
is
I'm
just the
reading from.
fact sheet, you know,
But,
the key findings.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but it's more like what the perception is. So like
Yeah, yeah.
like would you like if someone said to me they play a lot of games, am I necessarily thinking that they mean like Words with Friends or like a puzzle game on their phone, or am I thinking that they mean like they play FPS every night?
I'm sure that there'd be some
it's such-
like elitist fucks out there who'd be like, mobile games, they aren't video games. What are you talking about? And I think probably for the purposes of this, they've included all of those people in this. That's what I would guess anyway.
Yeah,
Just
that's-
like sort of
yeah.
based on sort of some of the stats that I can see here.
These demographic
Um,
ones are really cool. The amount of people, like, you know, half video game players are female, that's good. 51% of the population, so on and so forth.
Yeah, 78% of Australian video game players are aged 18 or older. 42% are aged 60. 42% of people aged 65 and over play video games, which is rad. More old people playing video games, please.
it's just gonna keep happening as we get older.
I know, right? The average age of video game players is 34 years old. That is my age.
Oh, you're so average.
I know, yay! I am absolutely average, man.
I
Status
think
quo.
from memory, the average has been climbing for obvious reasons, but because, you know, people who play games continue to get older and then new ones come in at the youngest side of things most of the time. So the average age has largely been climbing, I think.
An interesting
That does make sense.
thing that I just spotted here: 38% of people enjoy the culture of esports. I'm surprised that number is quite so
That seems high.
high. Like when it
Does
says the
seem high.
culture of esports, that makes me think of like the shittier side of games. That's not necessarily saying like
I am.
esports in general, because I think the way
I've
that
been
stuff's
really-
blowing up is awesome.
I've been really surprised at the amount of people I meet who I wouldn't think of who love LOL and like Dota and stuff like that, and that sort
Yeah.
of massive. Who like might not play it necessarily, but even just watch it, and that's like interesting to me. It's like you don't think that all football fans play football necessarily, but
No, that's true.
No.
like it's kind of cool.
Yeah, that is.
I think part of the reason behind that is not all esports, but a lot of them are quite complicated, so that if you don't play them, you may not. It's
Right,
harder to understand
right.
the nuances. Because I used to do a lot of esports writing up until recently, and I found that I had to spend a lot of time explaining esports as a concept to people. So that's why that number feels high for me, but that's just because my experience is probably very warped.
Sure. Some other numbers from this that I think are really interesting is some of the economic numbers. So, like, if you think about the video games retail in Australia, sales topped just over $2 billion, $2.04 billion. It's a fucking lot of money.
It's a huge industry.
Last year, 2018, the retail industry sales for video games totaled $4.03 billion. So it's doubled, or close to doubled in that time.
It's interesting that the physical sales was only 1.18 billion.
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Most
because
of
like
that, almost
the rest of it's V-Bucks.
almost 3/4 of that were digital sales.
This is probably the most solid stats on in-game purchases I've seen for a while, because the last ones I saw quoted was from 2014 for in-game purchases.
Yeah,
This would be pretty interesting data for gambling and microtransaction stuff and loot box stuff. I think them.
Oh boy.
So
Yeah.
65% of people have made in-game purchases for themselves, and 40% have made in-game purchases for others. So like either buying gifts.
I'd have to
or
read this full report
whatever.
at some point and see what I can mine out of it.
It'd be worth going through and seeing sort of what tidbits you can pull out of it. Because there's a lot of super interesting stuff in there. You can read the report yourself also if you go over to the IGEA
I hope they
website,
recorded the presentation as
IGEA.net.
well.
I think they might have as well. I'll have to read.
Yeah, there's
Might
people.
be an easier
Joel
way
might
to
know, for
digest some of
instance.
this.
Yeah, or you could always reach out to Raylene at the IGEA as well.
I'm sure they'll be happy to speak.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, what's next? Joy-Cons.
The Joy-Con drift.
Joy-Cons. So someone sued Nintendo because all the Joy-Cons are drifting slightly.
It's a class action lawsuit.
Yeah, I didn't actually look into this too much because then they,
So-
about a couple of days later, Vice Gaming, I think Patrick Klepek over there,
Yes.
found a memo, ran exclusive, which is basically that Nintendo is going to fix Joy-Con, Nintendo of America specifically, is going to fix Joy-Con drifting for free, and they were offering refunds, which
So I actually know a guy in America
for repairs, but
Yeah,
who is getting his fixed for free. Like he had to contact Nintendo support.
so they should be.
I think honestly,
I mean,
it's a
for a really long time, Nintendo was saying that it was just software. You just got to calibrate it. Like you've got to be in line with the thing. Like basically claiming that software or user error was what was going on, but it was so widespread that
I have been experiencing like a very slight amount of it.
Have you? So I haven't had it.
It's not constant, but it has happened noticeably. I was playing a massive amount of Breath of the Wild a while ago, and then it happens in Fire Emblem once in a while, but it's not like a huge problem, I guess. Like it happens so little, and then you just like tap on your thumb slightly and it stops. So I didn't think of it as a huge problem.
The amount that I've had it happen makes me usually wonder if it's me. Like
Yeah, exactly. It's
specifically,
really rare.
it's so intermittent and uncommon that my first thought is, am I sitting like in a way that's blocking it?
So
like,
apparently it's a mechanical issue and it's not a wireless or a software interface issue. So it's like there's something to do with the dead zone or some bullshit, or like
it's taken them a really long time to admit that.
I don't know, but anyway, no one knows if it's going to handle the same way in AU and NZ. I read that the class action lawsuit is still going ahead and is not affected, even if it goes through, though. It's like what's going to happen is going to take 3 years to get through the various circuit courts. Everyone will appeal 3 or 4 times, and at the end of the day, everyone will get like $10 or something. It's
pretty much, and everyone will be playing their Switch.
The fact that everyone has already told that Nintendo has already told people to repair it is a pretty big victory. So I don't know if it's related, but
it'll be good to know if we hear anything sort of support wise on that front in locally, like here in Australia. We haven't heard anything about that yet, but it would be nice because I do know that it is an issue. Although, admittedly, the only drift issues I've been having have been with my Xbox Elite controller. What the fuck?
That sucks.
Oh no!
Sales.
So much dollars.
PlayStations, there's a lot of them out there. Sony have shipped over 100 million of them now.
That's a lot,
and
what a success for Sony.
This is a story that's just come out today as we're recording this. And so that's not necessarily that there's 100 million of them out in the wild. That just means that there's 100 million of them have left their factory.
Yeah, they're in stores.
Pretty much. Yeah. But that is still not a small number.
No, they well and truly, I don't really like to talk in these terms, but they won the console war this generation.
What the fuck, Hope?
Well, I mean, Xbox did not have a good showing, and Switch, Nintendo, as usual, was playing a completely different game. So,
yeah, I mean, Sony's had some really good titles this gen.
They're basically the default for most of the cross-platform stuff.
I mean,
which is so bizarre to me because
Xbox never got a foothold in Japan. So
if you think about it, really, Microsoft has just been righting the ship this entire time.
Once they realized they lost, you could see lost again.
Pretty much what
they just planned for the next gen.
That's pretty much what Phil Spencer's had to do this entire time. Is just
damage control,
damage control from the Matrix era. And it's it's still trickling down to this day.
It's kind of working. They've got some interesting stuff going in the pipe.
Well, that's the thing.
They've got a whole bunch of studio acquisitions.
That's it. So it's
But
gonna
I'm
be...
also kind of glad because, like, for me, like, in Australia anyway, obviously not in Japan and whatever, but the 360 kicked the shit out of the PlayStation 3.
It was like that worldwide. It was like that all over the world.
I mean, we see this cycle every time. There's a winner, and then the winner gets fat on hubris and is immediately overthrown at some point. And then...
I mean,
Correct.
Sony have already like shown signs of that.
Though they've been so hubrisy.
Given like, especially given the fact that they've promoted Jim Ryan to like be the head of their division now. When you consider like some of his past public remarks on things like cross-platform play, and he was the one who famously said like they can't allow cross-platform on Minecraft because they wanted to protect their players or something along those lines.
Yeah, from all those Xbox pervs.
I mean, the underdogs play from a position of not strength, so they have to do what they can to appeal to everyone.
He's all like,
that's true.
Xbox has 2 X's in it. That's almost triple X. Everybody be careful.
He's also mad.
Too sexy for us. Somebody tell that
the
to
sex box.
Somebody tell that to David Cage.
6090.
Oh man, I bet there's like the GameSpot forums or whatever where the people just fighting the console wars forever. It's like the eternal cycle.
The good news for consumers is competition is pretty much always good.
Yes, it burns as bright as the sun that's going to swallow this entire universe.
I want to fight you on that competition.
Die.
I want to fight you on that competition is good thing, but I don't have the brain knowledge right now.
Look, capitalism is terrible, but as far as consoles,
alternatives are good. Yeah,
wanting to like make like improvements and stuff.
That's what I like more than the console wars, is this idea of like, hey, the more people that invest in games, the better it is for everybody, because then there's going to be more games for all of us to enjoy.
If we didn't have stupid capitalism, then everyone would be happy and I wouldn't want to die all the time. So those Nintendo software sales are looking mighty fine too.
Yeah, there's a
Thanks.
lot of Nintendo's
dollars.
They're good.
Nintendo's been selling a lot.
They've got a lot of over 10 million games.
Yeah,
I feel like Mario Odyssey has sold about 14 million too many copies.
Oof.
Yeah, I'm just gonna mute you from now on. So, Nintendo has done.
I'm surprised that Pokemon did that well.
Same.
Like, not necessarily because
given
it
it's
was
not a
very
mainline game.
focused Pokemon, but still.
So look, let's give you
I
some
will
numbers.
expect the mainline Pokemon to do more than that.
Yeah, that's.
So Nintendo's come out and they've actually gone and published some hard numbers on their sales. So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is the biggest selling with just shy of 18 million copies at 17.
When you consider that is essentially a Wii U port, the amount of
and the Wii U port was already a fairly good seller.
So that game I think
is...
has sold more than, how many Wii U's did they sell? Like fucking 5 million or something?
No, 5.
Patrick, do you want to cross check that?
I have no idea. I have no idea, and my keyboard is very clacky, so I'm not going to cross check it.
The fact that was a Switch port is just amazing. Mario Odyssey just shy of 15 million. Same with Super Smash Brothers.
Legend of Zelda selling 13 million. I mean, I know that was the launch game, so it's had a hell of a tail.
That is still amazing for a Zelda game. Which
Zelda
I don't.
is roughly about a 3 million series from memory.
So Mario Kart 8 on the Wii U sold 8.44 million pieces.
What did?
So
Mario Kart
8.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
So like add another 8 million to that number.
Yeah. Add another like 10 million almost. That's wild. It's sold.
Add another 20 million.
Double.
Let's go fucking nuts. Like, who even cares anymore?
Awesome. Pokemon just shy of 11 million. Splatoon 2 just over 9 million. Super Mario Party just shy of 7 million copies.
Yeah, I don't understand that one, but
don't get me wrong.
Go nuts.
I love me some Super Mario Party, but that thing needs some more boards or like some more.
It hasn't had any DLC.
I'm just having a quick look at Zelda sales, and it looks like Breath of the Wild is actually probably the highest selling game in the entire series. It's only Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time compare.
Gosh.
Ocarina is at 13.2 million.
Wow.
And Link to the Past is at 12.71 million, and they've all got literal decades of sales.
And Breath of the Wild was not just on Switch; it was also on.
That's true. It's on the Wii U as well. So,
but this is these.
What is this? This was
14.
14. No, it only had like about 1 million or so on Wii U, but still, like that's fucking crazy.
It's
wild. Such a great game. It deserves to sell.
It's amazing. Yeah.
I'm mad that any of these other games are above it, to be honest. But I understand why. They've got mass appeal.
I can't believe that 1-2 Switch is on this list at just over 3 million copies. I mean, I suppose I understand.
I wonder what the tail is like on that
given
one.
The proximity.
That was such a bizarre game.
Ace did really well too. Wow.
It's not going to work on the Switch Lite.
Ah.
You can't play it on the Switch Lite at all because there's no Joy-Con.
Yeah, but like, no one's going to buy a Switch Lite. Lots of people are going to buy a
Switch Lite. Lots of people are going to buy a Switch Lite. For 100 buckaroos
I have no... Like, what I just said there, I knew was a blatant lie. But
and Mario Tennis, 2.75 million. That wasn't a terrible game. I didn't mind Mario Tennis.
That was cool. I think some of the interesting stuff is the stuff that's not on here, but has been calculated based on rankings and stuff like that. I know that Xenoblade 2 is actually an over million seller, which is fucking crazy for a JRPG.
Wow. Man, that's so good though. I'm so happy.
It's a great game too.
So wild. Good. Want to pop me some orbs? James is like, what?
Yeah. I'm also I don't know about that.
I just clicked on a link that says dedicated video game sales units, and it's giving me a list of like total sales for like all of their consoles. Basically, they've sold almost 37 million Switches. Compare that with 13.5 million Wii U's.
They still didn't hit their bloody target last year, from memory.
Over 100 million.
I thought they
Wii's.
smashed their target.
No, because they revised upwards to like fairly high.
Oh, did they revise too high?
And then they didn't didn't make that, so they were like.
Didn't they have like console shortages and shit? Like.
Yeah, but that also indicates shipping, and there's tariff stuff for China. Apparently, they've changed their supply line to Vietnam at this point. But
that makes sense.
Yeah, there's all sorts of deals.
Can't have your Switch spying on you for the Chinese.
They also include...
they're going to sell to the Chinese via Tencent or something. I don't know.
That's right, they are, yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's that special Tencent phone coming out.
Yeah, there's something... They set up some sort of thing in association with Tencent. I don't know.
Tencent terrifies
whoever can crack the Chinese console market and like get past the CCP is going to have... fucking time.
Let's be honest. Yeah. Who hasn't got some money invested in it by Tencent right now? I'm pretty sure Tencent own like 15% of me.
I feel like Tencent could do that thing where like one day they just like they click their fingers and all these strings are sort of revealed and like just rising up out of everywhere is like all these like.
Have you been making JRPGs recently?
It really feels like it though. Like Kafka's gonna like rise up and it's just gonna. I don't like it. It scares me.
Well, that's capitalism for you.
Yeah, like I said, back on that again.
Yeah, and then our last little bit of news.
Very sad story.
Some sad news for especially in local development, but a lot of worldwide fans for this group of developers as well.
This hits really hard after reading those sales stats for games being so good in our country.
Yeah, I know, right?
And our government just not fucking supporting any of it. They're a bunch of dumb
right.
shits. Like Victoria State is the only one, as far as I know, that like even has a brain in this area.
Yeah.
Screen West in WA, the V has been doing really good work there, and
I wonder if
they're starting to get some stuff.
I wonder if Team Cherry,
that's
they're Adelaide, right? I wonder if they get
anything
out of South Australia.
Well, now that Sony's like setting up shop
that's
there.
True, I completely forgot about that. But yeah, Sony is setting up shop in Adelaide, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So anyway, before we keep going on about that, we should let everybody know what the news is. I'm sure everybody knows by now, but Defiant Developments have shut their doors. They've gone into caretaker mode. They made the Hand of Fate games.
1 and 2.
And they were excellent games. I quite enjoyed, especially Hand of Fate 2. I played a whole bunch and really liked it a lot. Really enjoyed a lot of the writing in that game as well. And they also shared some footage of what they were working on. It's like a quick minute-long trailer that just showed off some gorgeous visuals. And
it's really pretty.
Really
the game's
premise.
called A World in My Attic.
Yeah.
And it looks like it's sort of combining some sort of explorative RPG with a board game.
Yeah. And it had a really unique kind of fantastical kind of look to it.
Yeah, at first it kind of reminded me of Mello, but then when they had that character sort of wandering around like doing things on cliffs and stuff that looked separate from the board game, I was like, oh, what is this?
Yeah.
And then I was like, I will never know.
Yeah. It's a real
it's a big
real
loss.
bummer.
Yeah. Because they were a fairly large studio by Australian standards too, so
yeah,
like
let's
by
be
Australian
honest,
standards, I'm saying.
yeah, absolutely. And they were definitely one of the more sort of well-known studios in this part of the world
because I wouldn't have thought of them as unsuccessful.
Sorry?
You know? I personally wouldn't have thought of them as unsuccessful.
Well, no, I wouldn't have either. I would, and this is completely sort of hearsay at this point.
Like it's a
but
shock,
I
right?
would imagine that they've gone and shown this game off to a bunch of different publishers who I would assume probably Microsoft as well at some point, because I think that's who helped them develop Hand of Fate 2.
Hand of Fate.
And they were probably passed on it, which just seems insane to me because that game looks absolutely gorgeous. And it's a real shame because now there's a bunch of really talented folks out there looking for work. And so, condolences.
There's
to
a bunch
you
of really
all.
talented folks in here looking for work too.
Yeah,
Hi.
that's true.
Well, best of luck to everyone looking for work.
Yeah, absolutely. Hope you all land on your feet soon. So only a couple more things here to go through in our list. Announcements-wise, Xbox One S All Digital Edition drops this week.
I'm going to make the obvious joke. Sad.
Yep, it is sad.
Oh, I didn't notice that until just now.
$349 local price, $349 Australian. Not
That's shit.
Yeah, not that appealing, if you ask me.
I
could get a
don't
Switch
know
for that
who this
amount.
is for.
Yeah.
A really shitty Switch, but still. Well, I don't
Yeah.
know.
How much is a
alright, but-
regular Xbox One S?
You can pick up, refurbished ones, or not refurbished ones, but like pre-owned ones from EB with games for $289.
Yeah,
$300.
Yeah.
that's not great.
I think
I'm not really sure what this
so,
is. Like,
I feel like it just should have been. I feel like $299 would have been a much nicer price point, and that's only because we're at the end of the life cycle. We're at the end of the cycle now.
Yeah.
This is probably the final year that this will be around. Not around, but this is probably the final year that we're all expecting new things to drop
Yeah.
till next year, right?
Well,
Yeah, but,
news will
like,
drop
next
next year,
year.
I reckon, and maybe
And
by time of the
usually
holiday, but I don't think so.
yeah. Yeah, usually the last couple of times the way it's worked is they've announced it at E3, which may or may not happen given the current climate of E3, and then it's Christmas. Like, that's when the console drops.
Kind of, yeah. Well, I mean, Microsoft were out talking about it at E3, talking about sort of their future stuff this year. There's a lot of talk that Sony were going to... Sony had that thing in, what was it, Wired?
Yeah, they had
A
that
while ago.
article.
expose.
So, I
trying
mean,
to steal a march on them. I
the
think.
stuff is out there.
Weird way to do it.
Yeah, well, I mean, they weren't going to E3, so what
Yeah,
else
but
were
they do
gonna
their own little videos now. Like,
Yeah,
I don't
I
know,
think...
it was weird going to like a single publication.
What? Yeah.
Didn't Microsoft did that with Digital Foundry and the Xbox One X last year? I think they had them out to Seattle and got them to look at all the.
I feel like for
architecture and stuff.
incremental consoles, it makes sense, but I was surprised to see them do it for
Yeah.
a gen.
There's this air of legitimacy, and I think it lends to things in a certain way as well. Maybe I don't know. It's like
Yeah.
like
To me, it felt more like a rumor because it didn't come from the company.
Maybe.
well, no. I think what happened was for Wired specifically, Wired was going to break the story, but they approached Microsoft for comment first, as they should have, and Microsoft was like, "Hey, listen, can we do this instead? Can we like?"
Oh, okay, that's smart. Yeah, that makes
Because
sense.
Wired was going to run the piece either way, and so Microsoft was like, "Well,
Yeah.
listen, we can give you like this exclusive way, but this way we can, control stuff a little bit better." So,
No, that makes a ton of sense. Yeah, cool. I'm on board.
but anyway, like I just think like an all digital system is a non-starter really in Australia, even at the moment. Like even with the NBN in a fair
People
amount of
don't
places,
have
it's
the
just
internet.
not.
Even thinking about like, even
I mean, obviously they don't
the-
develop for us as a market, generally speaking, but
The other thing is, so games retailers don't have any incentive to push this because a large portion of their profits come from pre-owned disc sales.
Yep.
So like if I worked at EB when I was younger and JB Hi-Fi and shit like that, I know for a fact that like we would be directed to steer people away from this and into something else that has a disk drive because perhaps we can sell them a pre-owned console cheaper, and then we actually have the potential to sell them pre-owned games.
I wonder if, like, the big W's of the world or whatever would even bother, because it doesn't have the disc drive, so they can't make the sales as well. That's weird.
I'm going to tell you
Like
both a story off mic when we are done with this that you will find very interesting.
All right.
And then lastly, just a few sort of recommendations, I suppose. I've been watching One Punch Man Season 2. That series is still really fun, even though...
It's not as good, though.
No, it's not as good as Season 1.
I really hate the way they color metal.
What? That's a... Okay.
No, okay,
metal
so
turns
like
up a
you'll
lot
notice
in
it now.
this sort of thing.
It does.
So Genos is like made of metal,
Yeah.
right?
He's a cyborg.
I was going to say, what do you got against... What do you got against Genos?
Like, no, so this new season, they do, like, the way they shade the metal just, to me, looks like
Wrong?
fucking amateur hour. Like,
I mean, quality has dropped across the board. I don't think there's
correct.
any...
It's just that one thing that, like, I don't know, sometimes when I watch something like that, because I care about art and animation, it just niggles at me.
Watch Mob Psycho. Mob Psycho 100 is so much better.
But I do love One Punch Man, and I do think everyone should watch it.
Yeah,
Season 1
I
at
do think
least.
it is... Season 1's great.
Season 2 is
this
still
one's-
okay.
This one's a bit slow.
Although they do spend, like 6 episodes waiting for Saitama to fight at a tournament.
Yeah, I've just gotten through that.
That was a drag to read in the manga already. So
that was also a bit of a drag in this, but
Cool.
it's still One Punch Man.
tournament
it's still kind of
arcs,
fun.
baby. I love them.
And then Patrick, you've got something you want to
Yeah,
touch on as
quite a sad story. If you've been following the news, there was an arson attack at Kyoto Animation in Japan maybe about a week ago. 35 people died. 70 of 70 people, and most of the survivors were injured, and
That is
even the ones who weren't
terrible.
will suffer very traumatic psychological scars. So I just wanted to recommend that you watch the work of Kyoto Animation.
They're such good.
Any of it. It's
good
so
folks.
good. I'll name some specific favorites of mine. I'm currently rewatching Hibeke All Sound Euphonium, which is my personal favorite, but Hyoka is also good. Suzumiya Haruhi, very classic. K-On!, especially Season 2, which is much better than Season 1 in my estimation. I really want to watch Liz and Blue Bird, which is their premier award-winning movie that came out. It's part of the Sound Euphonium universe. They are amazing character. I've got a couple of articles up on The Guardian in terms of reaction and
also,
stuff.
to my understanding, one of the very few animation studios that pays well and makes sure that the people are living well and all that kind of stuff. Like, a lot of animators in Japan are
Freelance.
or they're slave to the bone, for like nothing. Whereas this is actually a really ethical studio. They hire a lot of diverse people, a lot of women, which makes it worse when you think they got murdered.
Yeah.
But like, it's a studio you should want to support.
Yeah, I'm trying not to, for my own sort of mental health, I'm trying not to follow it as closely as the further developments, because they're all just
horrible,
sort of dispiriting. We've gotten to the point where recently they found that the data from one of the servers could be salvaged and that sort of stuff, but the lives lost is immensely tragic. Huge blow to the industry. They have come out and said that they will continue to not fight, but they will continue to make animation.
Keep doing what they're doing.
Keep the dream alive, sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's really it's so sad. And like, getting my head around the idea of someone just setting fire to a building while people are in there. That's really disgusting.
Yeah.
And there's all this other stuff behind it, and I won't talk about it because, Patrick, I don't want to mess with you because you terrify me and you could kick my butt.
Terrible thing.
But no, specifically, I would recommend just watching any of their pieces. They're all really good stuff. There's a couple that I haven't seen myself, like Beyond the Boundary and Free, which is mostly from their latest era. Which
I didn't know they did Free.
They did Free, yeah, the swimming anime.
That's so
it's
cute.
Super gay.
Yeah, I've never watched it because I don't think it'd be my thing, but I know people who love that.
No, but like the character, it's the same amount of craft they apply to everything else. So it's just, and then Nichijou, I forgot to mention Nichijou, one of the most fucking hilarious anime I've ever seen. If you have ever seen a gif of a principal, an old, bald Japanese man, doing an Izunuma drop on a deer, that is from Nichijou. It is so good. Oh, it's
gosh.
fantastic. No,
Maybe that's-
Such purity.
there's lots. It's all across a bunch of streaming services. I think Anime Lab and Netflix and stuff might have some. Violet Evergarden is up on Netflix, so if anyone has that, that's a really beautiful movie as well.
Neat.
Series, whatever. But yeah, that's my recommendation.
Yeah,
It's
neat.
a good recommendation. My recommendation is Booksmart. It's a comedy movie. I actually reviewed it for Power Up a couple of weeks back, but it is the debut of the director. She was an actress before, and I can't remember her name, so I'm being a bit of a shit right now.
Wow. What the
Yep.
fuck, Hope?
Right? And it's
Fuck are you doing,
it's
Hope?
like, so it's this comedy, it's this teen sort of comedy movie where these two girls find out, like they've studied their whole life and they've never partied because they want to get into good schools. And then suddenly they find out that all the people who partied are still getting into the good schools. So they fucking wasted their time. And so they want to get this one party in.
The party.
Yeah, they're like, oh shit, we don't want to be like, what's the point? Like, we've got to do this. But it's a really, like, what I like about it so much is it's such a compassionate comedy.
Good.
So it's so stupid in so many ways, but hilarious. And it's got that sort of, like, almost Harold and Kumar vibe where they're trying to find the party for the first half of the movie and they're just trying to get there and then all shenanigans happen. But, like, even the characters that you kind of want it to be mean to, it's never mean to
That's
them.
nice.
Like, it's so wholesome while still being, like, disgusting sometimes and still being, like having sex jokes or, like, butt jokes and stuff like
so
that.
puerile,
Like, it's still,
Butt jokes.
but not mean, right? Like,
yeah, it's never mean.
that's the thing I've always disliked about a lot of teen comedy stuff.
Yeah, and it was so, like, incredibly refreshing to kind of have that thing where, like, you never felt bad for laughing at anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you never had that thing, or, like, I never, like, sometimes when you go see a movie like that, you feel uncomfortable because you don't find that funny
Yeah.
because it's just mean and, like, other people are laughing. But it never had that. It was always just really, really compassionate towards so many different people. And, like, even the people that would normally get thrown under the bus in this kind of movie were not. And that was great to me.
No, that's
Awesome.
That sounds cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rad. Booksmart. And that's it. I think
That's it. That's video
That's
games.
it. We are done. That is video games.
Yeah.
The state of video games as of right now. Oh gosh, I don't know.
That was some long small talk.
Yeah.
That was some, but I suppose that's how we do things around here. It just seems to be the way that things go.
Yeah. Oh well, whatever.
Yeah, we got shit to say. People,
If you're still
people
here,
want to hear
Thank
it.
you.
well done.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Congratulations,
Yeah, well done to you.
the listener. Sorry, I nearly said reader because of fucking idle thumbs. Jesus Christ.
dear listener.
Watch Evangelion.
Oh yeah, that's a thing.
It's the best. Everyone is finishing their rewatches and they're all just like, what the fuck? And I'm like, yes, that's how I felt when I was
Finally,
14.
you've joined
But I watched
me.
shit that was way too much for me. Oh, it's so good.
Gosh.
Love discourse.
Video games.
Love the
and
discourse.
Anime are
Our brands.
James is like, I did not sign up for this.
Hey, look, you know what? Fuck it. Take me
Spider-Verse is
for a
on
ride.
Netflix. Watch
I'll
that
do
as
it.
well.
Oh my god, watch Spider-Verse.
Is-
Fuck everything else we've talked about.
that-
Just watch Spider-Verse a million times
that on
and get it into
Netflix?
your brain
Oh,
and your eye hole.
Did you
haven't
see
seen
it's
it.
Oh, I
like
love
the
it
least
so
profitable
much.
Spider-Man movie? I was like, fuck everyone. You
I wanted
motherfuckers
to
are
punch
watching Amazing
everything.
Spider-Man 2 instead. Like, get out of here. Watch Spider-Verse.
Like, you're watching Spider-Man 3 when you could be watching Spider-Verse? Like, you just deserve to die.
Tom Holland is
Like,
cool, but he's not in Spider-Verse.
Oh, it's so good. And the animation is incredible, and the little moments that make them feel like real people, and they do all these things, and they've all got their own tics, and then there's all these little things that you don't know, but you find out later when you look into how the animation is done that makes them even better than you thought they
Okay,
were, like
we
things
can't
animated in
stop
different
Hope.
frames, and then
So-
she's on Heelys, and it's, oh my god, it's
Yeah, did
amazing!
you know Penny
can-
Parker's wearing Heelys
you can
through the whole
email
movie? That's
us
so cool.
VGST@videogames.com. And if you enjoyed it, then I don't know, tell your friends. Let them all know to come and hang out with the Video Game Small Talk crew.
Watch Spider-Verse!
Go and watch
Christ.
Spider-Verse. Now Hope is in your brain. Sorry, folks. She's going to live there now.
All right.
That's what happens.
It's dark in here.
We'll see you all for the next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Later.